2005, at the peak of their season, it all came crashing down.
Are you kidding me?
Now with a fresh stance, the Stamps seek to peak once more.
Roll to roll.
But the task won't be easy. Enter the defending champs.
Put it on the highlight reel. Touchdown, Eskimos.
It's their crown, theirs to defend. Take it if you can. Eskimos. Stamps now.
Hey, better late than never. We're going to kick things off at McMahon Stadium between the Calgary Stampeders and the Edmonton Eskimos. Hi, everybody. Dave Randorf, Chris Schultz, Matt Dunnigan, Jock Climby. The Eskimos and the Stamps are all set to go. And the last time these two bitter rivals faced each other was November 13th of last season, Western semifinal, and just 1 week after completely dominating the Eskimos, the Stamps imploded. 6 turnovers, they blew a 14-point lead and watched their Grey Cup aspirations go up in smoke while the Eskimos went on to win it all. This year, Schultze, new hopes for the Stamps, and once again, it's going to be up to Henry Burris to get them there.
Well, like every CFL football team, your quarterback is so important, but it's an issue with Henry Burris because he is a notorious slow starter. Remember last year, so much so that head coach Higgins was willing to put in Jason Gesser to kind of allow Henry to be on the sidelines and take a look at everything. It should be different this year because it's the second year for Henry Burris in the city. Second year with the same coordinator. Second year with the same players. But the bottom line is Henry Burris, his emotions fluctuate. He has the greatest smile when things are going really well, and he will get down on himself when things are not going so well. Find your even space, be consistent, but get off to a real good start, Jock.
Well, I think someone that's going to help him a lot is going to be Joffrey Reynolds. You know, this is a guy I don't think we spend enough time talking about. Everyone's talking about Ricky Williams this year. Well, I tell you, Joffrey Reynolds is a very similar type of runner, and I would say is the most dominant type of running back who plays between the tackles. And I think that we need to give him more time and attention, particularly when you look at what he's done for them thus far. And if there's any one guy who's going to have a great game tonight, I believe it's going to be him because of the lack of experience Edmonton has in their linebacking core. I mean, they have lost A.J. Gass, so he's not playing. They've got Quincy Stewart, who's a rookie out of Louisiana Tech. They've got Shannon Garrett, who used to be a defensive back, who's now moved into the Sam linebacking position. A little bit, a little bit light in the loafers there in terms of being able to stuff the A gap and the B gap. So I'm expecting that Reynolds is going to have a big night.
Light and loafers?
Yeah.
Or just he's small in stature?
That's the same thing, isn't it?
No, that's not the same thing.
No, it's not. But I will tell you that the Edmonton defense was #1 in the league last year. They're going to be tested. And in my opinion, it's one of those scenarios where I'm going to be looking at the matchups on the edge. You got Kenyon Rambo going against Craver, and you got Thurman going against Frank. And this is going to be critical in my mind to see if these Edmonton corners can handle the weapons that the Calgary Stampeders are going to be throwing at them all night long. The rain may have something to do with that because we know how Calgary performed last week in the rain against BC with the 57-13 drumming, and the quarterback served up 4 picks. Well, I don't think it's going to be the same case tonight. I think the Calgary Stampeders have got something to prove. In my opinion, I think they're going to go out there and play some tight football, some clean football, and be a much improved football team.
Stamps haven't had a whole lot of luck on opening day. They haven't won at home on opening day since 2000, but they're looking to change that against their arch rivals. The first of 4 meetings between the Stampeders and the Eskimos, and the first of a home and home. We got the back end of it as well, but first things first, kickoff is coming right up.
The CFL on TSN is brought to you by Wendy's, the official hamburger of the CFL. Do Wendy's, do what tastes right. By Rona, proud league-wide sponsor of the CFL. And by Rogers Wireless. Rogers brings you 2006 FIFA World Cup video highlights on the latest MP3 phones.
Anna Froelich of Edmonton, you could win a 50-inch Prima Plasma TV if a kickoff is returned for a touchdown in today's game, thanks to Safeway's Touchdown to Win promotion. And if a second kickoff is returned, you win $1 million. Finally, at long last, to McMahon Stadium, here's Chris Cuthbert and Glenn Suter.
Thank you, David. The Eskimos opening defense of their 2005 Grey Cup championship in the Calgary Stampeder home opener here at rain-soaked McMahon Stadium tonight. We had that lightning storm blow through about 45 minutes to an hour ago, and an unseasonable evening here. The field is wet, but it's a beautiful new field turf surface that drains well and should not be a problem tonight. There's Danny Machocha won a Grey Cup in his rookie year, says he's hungrier than ever as he sets up defense of that title against his old mentor, Tom Higgins, who looks for a measure of redemption for that season-ending Western semifinal loss against the Edmonton Eskimos last November.
Well, as tough as it is to win the first Grey Cup championship, it is that much tougher to win the second. And the one reason for that is from then on, once you win one, you have the target right on your chest the next year. The Calgary Stampeders looking to make up for a year ago.
Classy touch by the Stampeders is Doug Rook, who has been with this organization for 60 years, was involved in the ceremonial coin toss. And we want to salute Mr. Rook, who has been a fixture at McMahon Stadium, one of the classiest gentlemen you'll ever meet, and certainly involved in the Canadian Football League.
Absolutely, and after 60 years of service in the Canadian Football League and with the Calgary Stampeders, I think it's fair to say he gets the gold watch.
Can you imagine being associated with the team since 1946? There's David Allen getting set to accept the kickoff. Sean Fleming has it on the tee, and after a long wait, we are ready to open the 2006 version of the Battle of Alberta. And here's Allen, brought down before he reaches the 30-yard line, and Henry Burris will lead the Calgary offense onto the field.
Henry Burris last year completing 60% of his passes, threw for over 4,000 yards. In the backfield behind him will be the single back, Joffrey Reynolds. Finished just behind Charles Roberts in the rushing totals. Nick Lewis already doing some talking in the Battle of Alberta. And a fairly young offensive line. Godfrey Ellis starts for Jamie Crysdale, perennial pro who retired.
Starting lineup brought to you by Tums. Tums tackles heartburn fast. Let's see how fast Henry Burris goes to work, and that ball dropped. Maybe a wet ball and incomplete. Gibbs, the intended receiver.
Gibbs going down the seam and is wide open, but watch the closing speed of Kelly Wilshire to get this rivalry going in the right direction in the very first play of the football game.
Gibbs out of Northern Iowa, defensive player in college, and at the tryout camp they switched him over to tight end. Liked the way he did catch the ball, and he earned a spot on the team because Scotty Anderson is out of the lineup tonight with a bruised knee. On 2nd and 10, a completion to Brett Ralph, the former University of Alberta Golden Bear with the catch. There is a flag on the field.
A lot of people are looking at the Calgary Stampeders right now, one of the teams that maybe fights with the BC Lions. Of course, you can't ever rule out the Grey Cup champion Edmonton Eskimos in the West Division. I asked Tom Higgins about that. He said last year we finished 11-7.
Offside. Calgary number 11, 5-yard penalty, still second down.
3-3 in the first half, 3-3 in the middle, 5-1 as we finished the season. They feel like this is the football team that can take that next step. They didn't make a whole lot of changes in the offseason because of that.
Weren't clicking on all cylinders early as Henry Burris adapted to the new offense. First time in his CFL career. He's had the same offense 2 straight years with the same offensive coordinator. Burris throws incomplete on 2nd and 15, looking for his newest target, Elijah Thurman, another former Saskatchewan Roughrider.
Yeah, just another weapon, and this is one of the few changes the Calgary Stampeders made. Steve Brattle loves to put this weapon in there. He's your offensive coordinator for the Calgary Stampeders and will be calling the plays for Henry Burris, who prefers that. But Elijah Thurman has to find out how he's going to fit in to this talented group.
So Burke Dales comes in to punt, and there's TNT. Tony Tompkins, who said look for some big returns earlier in the season when there are a lot of newcomers on special teams that are getting adjusted to their new league. Let's see what Tompkins does on his first return, and it will be a big one. And Tony Tompkins is into Calgary territory. However, there is a flag on the field, and already tempers flare at the Eskimo bench. A 51-yard punt, 33 on the return. And welcome to Calgary and Edmonton 2006.
Jean-Philippe Abraham, a rookie in the Edmonton lineup, made a nice block for Tony Tompkins to spring him initially. And it was over by the sideline when the extracurricular started.
There was another flag on the field closer to the line of scrimmage. And we'll wait for the officials to sort things out. And there is at least one roughing call going against Edmonton. And a holding call going against Edmonton. So the Tompkins return negated. Andre Proulx is in charge here tonight. And if history tells us anything, it may be a busy night for him.
Yeah, with these two teams, without question. And see what the ruling is.
Holding.
That was
Edmonton,
the first
number
one.
47. 10-yard penalty. Major foul. Unnecessary roughness. Edmonton 95. After the distance, the goal. First down.
Well, the defensive ends both involved. Sherrod Coates and Charles Alston both drawing penalties.
Well, they may have missed one too. Kobe Reinhardt, the corner for the Calgary Stampeders.
Comes up with cleats high on J.R. LaRose. Well, Danny Machocho is upset about his team's lack of discipline in the preseason. 27 penalties, 394 yards. And they'll start back at the 12. Ricky Ray with what essentially is a lateral pass. And it's caught by Daryl Mitchell. And Mookie across the 15 to the 17-yard line as we set the Eskimos offense.
Well, the Edmonton Eskimos won the Grey Cup game last year. We'll have their same starting quarterback in place in Ricky Ray. And, of course, the receiving corps basically the same as well. That's where the similarities stop and the changes begin, because up front, a whole bunch of new faces, not new to the organization necessarily, but new to the starting lineup. More on that as we go.
5 yards for Mitchell, who caught 11 on Labor Day here. 2nd and 5. Ray with some time to be selective and to pull it down. John Grace gets a piece of Ray as he lunges to the 20, and he will be at least a yard short of the first down.
That's been the big question for the Edmonton Eskimos and Danny Macochin, one that he's been asked a bunch throughout training camp and the preseason. How will his offensive line respond? Sandy Annunziata, Chris Morris, Bruce Beaton, and Kevin Lustrud all leaving the organization. And now they go with Patrick Kabongo at tackle in his 3rd year, but a new starter. Tim Baker, a veteran, Dan Comiskey, Rhett McLean, and Joe McGrath. So not that he's worried about that position, but Danny Macochin wanting to see how they will gel.
All the pundits outside the organization are worried.
Yeah,
here's the new punter, Rodney Williams, an import out of Georgia Tech. And he lets the ball go through his hands, and he's nailed back at the 2-yard line. Oh, a mistake by the rookie punter, who doesn't get his first ever punt off. And Marcus Howell has the tackle. Not the way you want to make your CFL debut.
No, it isn't. You ever heard coaches talk about when players come out of the preseason, will they have deer in the headlights when the bullets are flying for real? Well, Rodney Williams had deer in the headlights when that ball arrived.
Man, it's 1st and goal from the 2 for Henry Burris with Joffrey Reynolds, the ball carrier, and he's met behind the line of scrimmage as Charles Alston stepped up and slammed the door shut.
Lots of changes on defense for the Edmonton Eskimos from the team that won the Grey Cup a year ago. Charles Alston did play in that Grey Cup game along with Steve Charbonneau and Singor Mobley, but in the front 7, that's where it ends. Robert Brown over in a trade. Sherrod Coates will start for Joe Mumford. There's the changes in the linebacking core. Quincy Stewart in the middle for A.J. Gass in the secondary. Relatively the same.
2nd and goal from the 4 now into the end zone. A lunge for the ball. And does he have it? Touchdown, Nick Lewis.
Well, we do have instant replay.
And the Eskimos defenders now signaling to the bench that they want Danny Macochin to throw The challenge flag.
You have to have possession of the football when you land. Nick Lewis has it there. It looks like it came out and was on the ground, and then he scooped it up as he's rolling along. Did he have complete possession on the way down? Danny Machocha has thrown the replay flag.
Yes, he has.
Now it looks like he went to recover.
So it was thrown out, and let's see the.
On the field is an incomplete pass.
Oh, they
Incomplete pass.
didn't have to
Third
challenge.
down.
No, he didn't have to challenge because the officials got together, did the right thing. They met up, they got together, and they got all the different angles. One signal in the end zone was touchdown. Danny Machocha threw the replay flag because he saw that angle, basically what you're seeing right now, and it looks like Nick Lewis drops the football. Through the replay flag, the officials huddled up and ruled it incomplete anyway.
So it's 3rd down and 4. And Sandro DeAngelis, who had the brilliant rookie season, comes in for the 11-yard chip shot. And the Stampeders draw first blood. Well, after the botched punt by the Eskimos, Calgary gets 3, and we join Heath Brown.
Thank you very much, Chris. CFL Director of Football Operations Sean Coates was in direct contact with Environment Canada right at kickoff, and they informed him that this weather system should be moving over the stadium in about 20 minutes or so. It is raining lightly now, but there is no lightning in the skies directly over McMahon Stadium. If there was, there would be a suspension of play. Now, it has rained twice here for their Stampeders 2 home games, and this new field turf here at McMahon Stadium has passed this test with flying colors, field conditions unaffected.
Boy, it is a beautiful artificial surface, and the players really enjoying it and feeling it may extend some careers and limit some of the injuries. There's Khalid Abdullah, we talked about in the pregame, with the tackle on the kickoff, return by Tony Tompkins.
The brother of Raheem Abdullah will start up there at the defensive end position. 8 sacks for Raheem Abdullah last year. There's the linebacking core right behind them. It's that 34 defense. Brian Clark, John Gray, Scott Coe, and Khalid Abdullah. On the outside for George White, who is ahead of schedule in his rehab. And there is your secondary. Trey Young established himself as a hitter from the safety position a year ago.
At the 35, Ricky Ray handing off to Troy Davis. Little room on this short side. Davis dropped the football, and the Stampeders are signaling they're on it. Well, last year in the Western semifinal, it was 6 Calgary turnovers that did the Stampeders in. Have the Eskimos made their second turnover of this opening quarter?
You know, and it didn't look like it was a turnover really caused by contact, at least not that much contact. There's the hit from behind Brian Clark. A linebacking core that last year generated 14 turnovers just amongst the 4 of them. Brian Clark creating a turnover right there.
And it looks like Jermaine Chapman got on the football. So a rough beginning for Danny Machocha's Eskimos. And right back to work goes Henry Burris. They start at the Edmonton 44, Joffrey Reynolds, who was smothered in his first 2 starts last year against the Eskimos. He had 8 carries for 1 yard on Labor Day. In the rematch, 10 carries, 21 yards. Before the number 2 rusher in the CFL last year did enjoy a little success in the last 2 games, but he was one of the guys who felt the worst in the Western semifinal with 2 fumbles, despite his 83 yards rushing in the playoff game.
Yeah, but this is a guy that, you know, this is a guy that's going to go after the title year in and year out because he's the entire package.
3 for Reynolds, 2nd and 7. A 6-pack of receivers for Burris. And there's Kenyon Rambo, hit by the safety Kelly Wiltshire. He'll be short of the first down at the 38.
You know, clearly the football is affected right now by the rain. I mean, we've seen a couple of fumbles. It looks like Henry Burris is having problems throwing the football, getting it out there. That ball had a ton of wobble on it.
And it's interesting, Glenn, because it's a new football with the seams sewn in, and it's supposed to be less slippery in these conditions.
Exactly. That's, you know, and that was the whole idea, was to change it up. It used to be that those white stripes, those white circles around the corners, those were painted on and they were coming off in a little slick. They sew them in, and I'm not sure if it's affecting them.
Newlywed Sandro DeAngelis attempting from 45 yards out, and DeAngelis misses to the left side, and a single point conceded by Tompkins. So Calgary ups their lead, but just by one. Not the start Danny Machocha was looking for, but it could have been a lot worse.
Well, it could have. I mean, you're on the road, even though it's just down the road. Turn the ball over twice and only give up 4 points. You got to count that as a victory.
Eskimos try to kickstart this offense. Davis has a little trouble getting the handle, but now he'll rumble across the 50 before he is cut down. Trey Young, the safety, with the tackle, as Edmonton tries to put it back on the rails after this shaky start.
Yeah, it started with Rodney Williams, the punter, here this evening, who had one go right through his hands. He almost closed his eyes. Then Troy Davis, who is always sure-handed, allows that one to hit the turf, and he fumbles one on that little throw there. He had to catch it a couple times, but that had nothing to do with the football. He just took his eyes off it on the last play, ended up picking up pretty good yardage.
Davis hit 299 yards catching the football a year ago, 15 on that catch, and now Ed Hervey is met by Kobe Reinhardt after a short gain in the flat.
Chris, Edmonton fans watching this game that watch the Grey Cup must be looking at this team and going, wait a minute, who are these guys? I mean, Chris Morris, Bruce Beaton, Lefsrud, all gone. And how about this guy, the backup quarterback, and really one of the heroes from a year ago in Hamilton is Jason Moss this year, playing in Toronto earlier today. So tons of changes, most notably on that offensive line. How will they come together? A huge question.
2nd and 5, flag down, play doesn't get off, and we want to apologize. We understand we're having technical problems with our virtual first down line. Ricky Ray was looking at 2nd and 5, but they're going to be pushed back 5.
And when Edmonton 63, 5-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
Left tackle Joe McGrath.
Yeah, and that's one of the guys that they're going to rely on. He's been in the organization 3 years, Joe McGrath, and then Dan Comiskey beside him, a 10-year veteran. That's not the issue. What the concern may be is Patrick Kabongo, who moved over when he came to Edmonton from the defensive side of the ball, is now playing offensive line and out there on the tackle.
Hervey wide to the far side of the field. It's underneath for Davis again. Puts his head down, but is stopped at the Calgary 53-yard line, well short of the first down.
And let's just see how early on in this game Patrick Kabongo is doing out here. Here he is. He's a big man out there at that right tackle position. Out on that island, he steps out nice. Here's one for Chris Schultz. Now, he does get his hands up in the face, which may be called a little more this year, but a pretty nice job of allowing Ricky Ray early on to get rid of that football.
So cue Rodney Williams, who didn't get the first punt off. This one is sent downfield, and here's David Allen. Breaks one tackle. J.R. LaRose wrestles him down with some help. Midway through the first quarter, Calgary leads. So the offenses really haven't been able to kick it into high gear so far. Halfway through the first quarter, Calgary with a first down at their 24-yard line, and Henry Burris going up top, and Copeland, the intended receiver, and good coverage provided there by Shannon Garrett, who was not forced into retirement by the loquacious slotbacks of the Calgary Stampeders.
And there are some changes for the Calgary Stampeders. This one really hurts. Jamie Crysdale leaves the Calgary Stampeders after 13 great years, but here's a couple that will help. Elijah Thurman, and how about Danny McManus? You look at Danny McManus and what he may be able to do to help Henry Burris mature as a quarterback.
2nd and 10, and again the 6-shooter offense for Burris. He looks for Lewis, incomplete, and Reggie Durden has his eye on his first Eskimo interception just over from the Montreal Alouettes.
Reggie Durden had played that perfectly to the right of your screen. You're going to see him break on the out right here. He cuts underneath in perfect time. That ball goes through his hands and then through the hands of Nick Lewis. What a break by Reggie Durden, who comes over via trade. That was with Davis Sanchez, Reggie Durden, and Robert Brown, the Montreal Alouettes.
There's Burke Dales, who's lost 30 pounds this year. And punting to Tony Tompkins at the Eskimo 45. Not much room in front of the Edmonton bench. Well, Ricky Ray persevered through a trying second half, and then in the Grey Cup game was at his best. There was the tying overtime touchdown to Jason Tucker on the money.
Unbelievable throw there to Tucker. And how about the 3rd down gamble when Ricky Ray found Daryl Mitchell on 3rd and long? I thought one of the big plays of the Grey Cup game. And you know, that's why you never, no matter how many changes the Edmonton Eskimos have made this year, and they've had to make a bunch, again, as long as you have Ricky Ray or a Dave Dickinson at quarterback, you've got a chance.
Grey Cup record 35 completions, but Danny Machocha doesn't want him throwing that much this year. Here's the flanker screen to Ed Hervey, and he is brought down by Trey Young.
3 Grey Cup appearances, the MVP in 2005, and in Grey Cup games, completing 66% of his passes for close to 1,000 yards. And look at the TD to interception ratio.
And in 3 years in the Canadian Football League. But let's be honest, they don't get there without Jason Moss.
No question.
I found it interesting. Danny Machocha watched tape of a 16-play drive in the Western Semi engineered by Moss, along with Ray this week, to kind of remind him, be patient. That's the kind of offense they're looking for this season. And Troy Davis on 2nd and 3 is stuffed at the line. And Danny Machocha's got a decision to make here. No gain, and out comes the punt unit.
Well, you got to think field position, especially being behind in the way it's gone early on for Danny Machocha with a couple of turnovers that his defense bailed him out of with only 4 points on the board for the Calgary Stampeders, especially when they had one of those turnovers inside the 10-yard line. So good decision to think about field position at this point in the game.
Taylor Inglis, who grew up an Eskimo fan, the long snapper on the money to Williams, and this one off the side of his foot. So Rodney Williams having a nightmarish first quarter. A 20-yard punt by Rodney Williams. Here's Joffrey Reynolds, high stepping outside, and Reynolds up to the 38-yard line has 7 yards. We want to say happy 41st birthday, not to Henry Burris, but to his backup, Danny McManus, who really is a terrific insurance policy for the Stamps.
Boy, is he ever. You know, he started out with the Edmonton. He went from Hamilton to the Edmonton Eskimos and then was traded to Calgary. And a nice pickup by Tom Higgins, who now has a guy that he may go to. I asked Tom Higgins that. It's not just here to help Henry Burris. He may go to them if Burris struggles.
Reynolds broke the first tackle. Joffrey Reynolds across midfield, and now it's a foot race, and Reynolds finally forced out at the 27 of Edmonton.
I talked about Joffrey Reynolds being the complete package, and he shows a little bit of all of it in this run. He shows the great foot speed that he has when it comes to change of direction. Here he is back here. He's going to end up getting to this side of the formation and then bouncing back. Watch how he does that. That shows his quick feet. He's going to end up there. He goes to his left, breaks a tackle. That shows his strength. Now some speed, and watch the end of this. A little stiff arm to show his upper body strength as he picks up a couple extra yards.
Finally forced out by the corner, Keo Craver, but it's a 45-yard romp by Joffrey Reynolds. And now Henry Burris pumped once and dumps it off. And Nick Lewis didn't look like he was ready for it. Incomplete.
Well, and I think Singor Mobley may have distracted him. Mobley was trying to cut to the football, and he sort of waved his arms in front and just was enough to distract Nick Lewis. Henry Burris tried to go deep, pulled it back, and there's Singor Mobley, and maybe even got a little piece of it.
I think he did. Henry Burris looked like Steve Nash there, a point guard, faking one way and then dishing it another way. But he's off to another slow start, a traditional slow starter. We're trying to change that this year in a more comfortable offense for him. 2nd and 10, flushed. On the run throws, Brett Ralph drilled out. They'll give him the 15-yard line, and that will be a first down.
Henry Burris was asked in the newspaper recently about the slow start last year and if he's worried about a slow start this year, and he gave him that big smile, and the quote in the paper was, "I think I've had a slow start to my career." But here's what's different for Henry Burris. This is the first time that in year 2 he has the same offensive coordinator in the same system. They started training camp so much further ahead this year than they did a year ago.
They have a first down with less than 3 minutes to go in this opening quarter. A flag down, and that pass behind Jermaine Copeland, and more flags fly. Henry 9-6 as the starter last year. He missed action with a thumb injury against Edmonton in the Labor Day rematch at Commonwealth.
And the reason they're so confident is that the finish, the 5-1 finish in the last 6 games of the season, and how Henry Burris started to really get some chemistry built up with Nick Lewis, Jermaine Copeland, and Kenyon Rambo, who joined the team late, but certainly made an impact down the stretch.
Offside, Calgary. That penalty's declined. Holding, Calgary 64. 10-yard penalty, still first down.
Right tackle Jeff Pilon, the culprit. So it will be 1st and 20.
The other thing that he has to adjust to is Godfrey Ellis at center for the Calgary Stampeders, and in the preseason Ellis had some problems with that shotgun snap.
Yes, he did in both games. In fact, he was pulled briefly in one because of the errant snaps. There's Elijah Thurman, the only 1,000-yard receiver in the Saskatchewan arsenal last year, and signed as a free agent here to reunite with his old Rider quarterback.
Yeah, and he's just got to fit into what is a talented group. And, you know, just to get back to that snap and Godfrey Ellis, Chris, and I would relate it to being a holder on field goals, which I was. If the holder has to think about the center's job, it really distracts you in trying to accomplish your job.
Ellis with 8 games last year, replacing the injured, now retired Jamie Crysdale. 2nd and 16. It's gunned into the flat. Kenyon Rambo to the 10. He's forced out there. So it will be 3rd down. Rambo, who had a touchdown in the season opener a year ago, which, by the way, was 2 weeks later. You know, and Canada Day.
Sorry, Chris. It appears that the Calgary Stampeders have all the momentum right now in this game, although every time they get down into the red zone, the green zone, the scoring zone, whatever color you want to call it, and come away with field goal attempts, that just adds to their frustration at home in their opener, and it swings that momentum over to the Edmonton Eskimos.
So DeAngelis comes in to attempt his 3rd field goal of this opening quarter from 18 yards out. And he is good. So it's a converted touchdown lead for Tom Higgins' team, but they have squandered opportunities to score a major in this opening quarter. Well, we'll be in Winnipeg next Friday Night Football. Ricky Williams and the Toronto Argonauts off a season opening win this afternoon, and I think everybody was reasonably impressed with the Bombers' performance last night in Montreal, particularly a vastly improved defense.
I thought they played well enough to win on the road in a tough place to win in Montreal. Full credit to the Alouettes. They came on when they had to in the last 6 minutes of that game, but that looks like a very different Winnipeg Blue Bomber team. Should be a good matchup, and of course we'll be watching closely to see if Damon Allen, who was hurt today, will be ready for that game.
I want to mention Father's Day tomorrow, and Danny Machocha may have delivered one of the nicest Father's Day gifts. He sent his dad, who he consults with daily on the phone back in Montreal, sent his dad a 2005 Grey Cup ring.
Nice.
Not bad, huh? Tony Tompkins helped contribute to that championship. I think that kickoff return in the BC plays really switched the momentum when it looked like the Alouettes were taking control of the game. And here is the Eskimos' top rookie and special team player last year. Flag down, ball popped loose on the sidelines and out. Calgary arguing there are flags. And I don't think a Stampeder touched the football on its way out of bounds.
No, and even if a Stampeder caused the fumble, they have to touch the football again before it goes out of bounds to take possession away from the Edmonton Eskimos. That's where it was punched out, but I agree, Chris. I don't think anyone got their hands on it. And John Grace was close.
I think Khalid Abdullah was the man who punched the ball out of Tompkins' hands, but as you could see, no Stamp touched it. Ricky Ray has possession. However, there was a holding penalty against the Eskimos, and the ball marched back to the 21. Ray perfect so far, and that stat seems a little deceiving because we really haven't seen the Eskimos able to march the ball with any consistency in the opening quarter.
No, and a whole bunch of turnovers haven't helped.
Ray straight back, underneath it goes. Hervey the catch. Before he was injured last year, they wanted to make in Hervey a bigger part of this offensive package.
Well, and if that offensive line can give Ricky Ray a little bit of time, he's got the targets. I mean, just look at the career numbers for the three go-to receivers. Jason Tucker probably the #1 guy when they get down close to the goal line, even though he's a little bit behind Hervey and Mitchell in the overall touchdown department over the last couple of years. It's been Tucker time inside the red zone.
2nd and a yard. And that yard tough to acquire for Matthew Bertrand, the Quebec City native.
Last 2 years for Jason Tucker, 22 touchdowns in the regular season. Not to mention what he's done in the postseason. And I don't think I'm giving away any secrets to any defensive backs in the entire Canadian Football League when I say when the Edmonton Eskimos get down inside the 20-yard line, Jason Tucker at some point will run a corner route.
Yes, he will.
And everyone knows that, and still
can't stop it.
Can't stop it.
And as you can see, Bertrand will be a foot short. Told you the story about Danny Machocha sending Dad a Grey Cup ring. Jason Tucker wishes he'd send him a ring because he had his 2003 Grey Cup ring stolen. He, of course, the MVP of that game. And during preseason, when the Eskimos were on the road, he had his truck broken into, and he's without that nice piece of jewelry.
It's a good thing he didn't see the guy who stole it, because I guarantee he would have chased him down.
And would have caught him.
Yeah.
Well, 31-yard line. It's 3rd down and a foot. They hunker down, and Ray will plunge ahead. And behind Rhett McLean, Tim Baker, and Dan Comiskey
now
should have it.
Sorry, Chris. The spot of this ball under the new rules is reviewable in the new instant replay system. And it can only be on a 3rd down attempt at a 1st down. So depending on where the spot of this ball is, because it's in Edmonton's own end of the field, it could be interesting to see if it is a 1st down and Tom Higgins may decide to, and I don't know. They're going to give it to him.
By an eyelash. Wow. And you know, you saw that pile, and I'm not sure how you'd ever get conclusive evidence on that kind of play.
And that's why it's a risk to challenge a play like that, but it is in the rules that you can challenge on third down, not on second down if it's 2nd and inches, but on third down, you can challenge the spot of the football.
Should be the final play of this opening quarter. And in the flat, there's Hervey again. The man that the Stampeder slot back said was over the hill, but Hervey's been good in this first quarter. Stats after 1 quarter brought to you by Rona, proud league-wide sponsor of the CFL.
Sorry, Chris, a defensive struggle in the first quarter of play with just 5 total first downs between the two teams, with quarterbacks the likes of Ricky Ray and Henry Burris should be higher. And I think maybe the story of that first quarter is the fact that there was only 4 points off the 2 turnovers by the Edmonton Eskimos.
We talked in the pregame about the fact the Eskimos had just 3 of their front 7 from the Grey Cup game in the lineup, but they have been stingy on defense so far.
Well, they have, considering it's been sudden change when they've had those turnovers. 1 turnover inside their 5-yard line, and all Calgary came up with was a field goal attempt and the field goal. So, 4 points off turnovers when you're on the road is huge.
So just a 1 touchdown lead for Calgary, and Danny Machocha's team roared back in the Western Semi from a 14-point deficit to end Calgary's season and to start their march in the postseason to the Grey Cup Championship. The 13th in the history of the Eskimos. Here's Troy Davis trying to get outside and unable to do so.
It sure looked like there was a face mask. It looked like Troy Davis. He's trying to just keep his balance. Someone was yanking and looked like his face mask.
Demetrius Maxey was involved in the tackle, the 13-year veteran, 4th year here in Calgary.
Well, he only played 6 games last year. He's injured, but he had 5 sacks in those games and 58 sacks in the career. It's a 13-year career for Demetrius Maxey, and he's bounced around down the National Football League for a while and back and forth in the Canadian Football League.
Loss of 2, 2nd and 12. We haven't called Jason Tucker's name yet. We've called Ed Hervey's, and we'll do it again as Hervey struts into Calgary territory at the Stampeder 50-yard line.
That's one of the reasons that Ed Hervey has been such a great receiver for so long. Number one, he can recognize defenses quickly, but watch his stride after he catches his football. He turns around, and in 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, he has got the corner and is on the sideline for good yardage. He has such a long stride that in 2 or 3 steps, he can go where it takes most football players 3 or 4 or 5 steps to make up. And I think that's one of the reasons that he has that great speed and has been such a good receiver for so long.
World-class speed, USC track star. No touchdowns in 10 regular season games last year, but a big one in the Grey Cup. There's Jason Tucker, and he has the catch at the Calgary 20-yard line. It's a 30-yard pickup. Ray to Tucker, that firm back in business.
It's all about angles oftentimes in football and whether or not the receiver can get the best angle. Jermaine Chapman is covering Jason Tucker going down the seam, and what Tucker does is he gets inside position in the man-to-man defense. Chapman on the outside here, he thinks that he's got safety help. He's looking for Trey Young to come over and give him some help a little sooner than that. Trey Young is slow. Tucker gets down that seam.
In 3 regular season games last year, Tucker 23 catches, 276 yards, a pair of touchdowns. As Danny Machocha said, the bigger the game, the better he usually plays. Here's pressure, and Ray lost the football, and it looks like Brian Clark has got it, scooping it up away from Troy Davis. It's another Edmonton turnover.
And there is no way that Danny Machocha could challenge this play, in that when you look at Ricky Ray, I don't think he even got it up over his shoulder. Looked like he was going to throw it forward. It was stripped out before he got it up over his shoulder. Here it comes around the corner. Brian Clark gets his right hand on it, and that is before Ricky Ray gets it up in the throwing position, because on a fumble ruling like that, when the quarterback is hit while throwing, it is reviewable. But it didn't look like Danny Machocha had the chance to do it.
Wonder if Troy Davis missed an assignment as they confer with him. And now David Allen coming around, and that didn't fool the Eskimos defense. Singor Mobley, the mainstay and the leading tackler for the green and gold the past 2 years, stops Allen before he can turn the corner. Well, we talked about the linebackers of Calgary in the pregame. Last year, they caused 14 turnovers, 7 fumble recoveries, 7 interceptions. Here's number 1 of 2006.
Yeah, here's Troy Davis. We're just to see if he maybe missed that block, and it looked like he got a piece, but not enough. And that's another hit on the quarterback, and that's why the coaching staff was talking to Troy Davis.
2nd and 8. And in the flat. Oh, look out.
Oh, baby.
K.U. Craver had 6, and he couldn't hang on. Oh, a touchdown written all over that, going the other way, and Burris is lucky to escape unscathed.
Western Final, K.U. Craver with an interception and a couple of knockdowns a year ago. He also had a couple of knockdowns in the Grey Cup game. Did not have an interception in that one and should have had that game. Some defensive back coaches will say a knockdown's as good as an interception. I disagree. That was a touchdown for Craver.
That would have tied this game. Instead, it is just a punting situation for the Stampeders. Burke Dales kicking to Tony Tompkins, Edmonton 34-yard line. Thompson is nailed. Helmet pops loose. That's the Battle of Alberta. Scott Coe celebrates.
Yeah.
Tony Tompkins getting attention at the Eskimo bench, I guess, after that hellacious hit.
Khalid Abdullah and Scott Coe. Oh, man.
And he lost a contact after that.
And that's they're making sure it wasn't just contact. Like, okay, his nose is there. That's good. That's a good sign. Got all his teeth. Fix up the eye and get the contact back in. Where's his pads? His helmet's still out there probably.
Well, you know, Scott Coe gets fired up for every game, but maybe amps up a little bit more when the rivals come to town. That pass broken up, intended for Hervey, and more flags flying at the line of scrimmage. And it is going against Edmonton. Scott Coe with 10 tackles in 1 game against Edmonton last year and 23 in the 3 regular season games. And I think he's outdone himself once again. Yes, do not adjust your sets. That is the way his hair looks.
Edmonton 56, 10-yard penalty, still first down.
There's Patrick Kabongo getting called on the hold.
Yeah, and I'm sure Danny Machocha expects Patrick Kabongo to get a couple of penalties as he finds his way in that offensive line. But you know what Patrick Kabongo did in the offseason? As of about February, was in the office every single day, studying film, working on technique, working in the weight room.
So it's 1st and 20. Davis the draw, and Troy Davis up to the 21-yard line, met there by the top defensive player in the Canadian Football League last year, John Amazing Grace.
8 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries, 75 tackles, which ranked him 6th in the CFL a year ago. 83 total, 75 on defense, and he had some kind of year. You've seen the movie X-Men, right? These are the X-Men.
They are the 4 Horsemen, but you like the X-Men.
I like the X-Men. He would be hawk because he's like a ball hawk. He's always at the football.
Another flag. Hervey in the flat and almost picked off. Cedric Williams, the rookie on the corner, replacing the injured Krantz Clemens. Nearly had 6 the other way. But this flag going against the Stamps.
Cedric Williams is one of the
Offside.
positions.
Calgary 53, 5-yard penalty, still second down.
Raheem Abdullah jumped the gun.
This is one of the positions that Tom Higgins was watching closely, and pretty nice break there by Cedric Williams, a rookie on the corner.
There have been a few Eskimo incompletions, but they've been wiped out by penalties, so officially, Ricky Ray still perfect on the night. He's 9 for 9 And looking at 2nd and 10, a safety blitz, Trey Young. And Ray got it away, but there is the first incompletion as the pressure was coming from the safety out of Montana, Trey Young.
Well, what they try and do is rotate the defense in that they're going to bring Trey Young and put him down in here, and right here is Jermaine Chapman. He rolls from the backside right back into here to the safety position and move Trey Young down. So while it looks like it's full safety blitz with man-to-man coverage, it's actually has a free safety in the middle. Trey Young gets there, puts the hit on Ricky Ray. But Ricky Ray had a safety in the middle, and it was Chapman.
Here's Allen stepping up on another short Rodney Williams punt. His last was 22, and this one only 33 yards. Battle of Alberta renewed here at McMahon Stadium in the season opener for the Eskimos and Stampeders, both 11-7 a year ago. Calgary was better away from home, just 5-4 at McMahon last season. Joffrey Reynolds with the carry. He's game tackled. Interesting sidebar to this story is middle linebacker Quincy Stewart was a high school rival of Joffrey Reynolds, so they go way back.
Well, if he, of course, Quincy Stewart replaces A.J. Gass in the middle, and they're not really sure exactly when the leader of that defense will be back. But Danny Machocha wanted to look at Quincy Stewart anyway because he just loves how active he is as a linebacker. He says, if you find the ball, 45 will be close by.
Reynolds with 3, and it's 2nd and 7. Rush on. Burris in trouble. Steve Charbonneau trying to track him down. Henry back at the 30, and wisely has to throw the football away. And just to get it back to the line of scrimmage, he had to throw that ball at least 35 yards.
Yeah, he did. And it's a good thing he did, too, because I'm not sure that there was a Calgary receiver in the area. But if Henry Burris throws the ball over the line of scrimmage, there doesn't have to be. But it was a long throw just to get it to that point.
And Charbonneau is smiling because that's not the kind of foot race he's going to win, but it was enough to put heat on Burris and to make him throw the football away. And Burris just 4 for 12 in this opening half. Dale's trying to coffin corner it. Tompkins let it go, and he gets the preferable bounce for the Eskimos. He wanted to give up the single, and there's Khalid Abdullah, who apparently doesn't know the no yards rule, and it may not be 8-0. We'll wait and see. Well, coming up, it's Game 5 of the NBA Finals on TSN tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern. Series locked at 2 games apiece. The game available in TSN HD.
Well, Calgary Stampeders have to coach up Khalid Abdullah on the punting game in the Canadian Football League.
Abdullah with the 15-yard no yards call. And it comes out to the 40-yard line, and it remains 7-0. Ricky Ray unloads. Bertrand flags down as Bertrand was tackled by Chapman.
Khalid Abdullah may just got his 2nd consecutive penalty. He was coming on the backside on that blitz. He, of course, did not get out of the 5-yard restraining zone on the punt and didn't make an attempt to. That's why it was a 15-yard penalty.
Big Brother didn't tell him about the no yards.
He didn't explain the no yards rule, and he should know the late hit rule.
Passer, Calgary 42, 15-yard penalty, first down.
And Big Brother may have to settle him down now.
Here he is. He's the free man on the outside. Now Ricky Ray knows that he's free and just has to get rid of the football in time. There's a throw, and that was pretty close.
Here's the no yards. And watch Wes Lutzak's
going, no. Here, come over to the sideline. I'm going to coach you up on this unique rule to Canadian football.
So the rookie has cost them a point and 30 yards in 2 plays.
Yeah, but that was a very close call on that late hit. I'm not so sure.
Ray on a roll. Abdullah pursuit. And nearly drew another penalty, a completion to Trevor Gaylor. And I'll tell you, Andre Proulx took a long look at Abdullah after he made contact with Ray once again.
Now you have to be in control of your body. I wouldn't mind going back to that late hit one more time, because this has given the Edmonton Eskimos instant field position. Khalid Abdullah comes around the edge, and it looked to me like he left his feet, and now once he's in the air, well, no, he did take a half a step. We slowed it down. I think the refs did get it right.
It should say that he has made a positive impact in this game as well. Big hit on Tompkins, strip of the football, and he's been around it all evening. Ricky Ray, Trevor Gaylor, and he overthrows Gaylor on the corner route by a stride. And it'll be third down. Gaylor, a man that the Eskimos think has a bigger upside than we saw a year ago when he just finished short of 1,000 yards, and they think he's a 1,200 to 1,300 yard receiver in this offense.
Yeah, and again, his problem has been, Trevor Gaylor's problem has been when he's dropped a couple of key ones and then the quarterback loses a little confidence, but they think he can take the next step.
Rodney Williams going for the corner, and this is a better kick by Williams, who has struggled in the first half, but they're going to mark this one. It looks like inside the 5. And it's going to be around the 4-yard line. So a 40-yard kick into the corner, and Williams has his best punt of this game.
And the chess match for field position is now advantage Edmonton, and really due to the 2 penalties for Khalid Abdullah.
Let's join Heath Brown on the sidelines.
Thank you very much, Chris. It was a night just like this last Thursday when the BC Lions came to town and dismantled the Stampeder Football Club in its final preseason game. Only 8,000 fans showed up, and Coach Tom Higgins told me he was quite happy that more didn't witness the debacle. Coach Higgins also said something very interesting to me as well yesterday at the media conference, that he was happy to see the last of Joe Monfort in an Edmonton Eskimos uniform, and I imagine that all CFL coaches and quarterbacks are happy about that.
Henry Burris among them. Burris hooking up with David Allen for a gain to the 10-yard line, 6-yard pickup. So without Montfort and Rashad Genty going to the NFL, it's 2 new defensive ends for Danny Machocha, Charles Alston, and Sherrod Coates tonight. They really like Andre Summersell, who is out with an ankle and should be back for game 2.
This is a strange one with Joe Montfort. More on that after this play.
2nd and 4. Short drop over the middle. Jermaine Copeland breaks a tackle, and he's still going to the 31. Finally brought down by Malcolm Frank.
Well, yak yards after the catch. Very important for both these slot backs, and they're great at it. Nick Lewis and Jermaine Copeland, who's going to just run underneath right here. But watch what he does after he catches the football. There's the catch, broken tackle there, and then a little bounce to the outside for a couple more yards.
21 for Copeland. That's a big first down as Calgary was starting at their 4-yard line. Less than 5 to go. Copeland, that's a terrific catch. Reach behind. He was all hounded by Reggie Durden, but somehow came up with a football and has an 8-yard catch.
Well, he just won the battle there, and this great team game, the ultimate team game, often just comes down to these one-on-one battles. Reggie Durden is in great position. In fact, has both hands.
He took it out of Reggie Durden's hands.
Yeah, he has both hands on the ball, and Copeland just took it away. Now he's got to be careful not to get a taunting call to spike the ball right by Durden.
I was just saying hi to an old teammate. You want to think they ran that play a ton of times in practice in Montreal camp. Copeland, the number 8 receiver in yardage last year. His slot back mate, Nick Lewis, number 2. But Copeland had a very quiet second half of the season. Reynolds on 2nd and 2 is stuffed, drilled back. Quincy Stewart, the middle linebacker, hooks up with his old high school rival.
I want to get back to that Mumford thought just for a moment. And, you know, when you think about Joe Mumford and his tremendous career and how and what he did for the Canadian Football League and how dominant he was throughout his career, just, you know, you hope that he finds a home somewhere. But 8 coaches, 8 very intelligent football minds across the CFL got to be saying something. And they're saying right now that Joe Mumford is not going to play on their football teams. And you know, that may mean that this great Hall of Fame career is over. Tough decision for Danny Machocha. He's going with Sherrod Coates for now to fill in at that defensive end position and see how he does. The rookie for the Edmonton Eskimos. But, you know, personally, I'd love to see Joe Mumford come back, but all of 8 coaches can't be wrong either.
Joe Mumford was good for the Canadian Football League.
Yeah.
And you wonder if the situation will change as the year progresses. Injuries somewhere might open a spot, but, you know, Joe Mumford has the credentials that you'd think would have him in somebody's camp already. 3rd and over a yard with less than 4 minutes to go in the half, and Tom Higgins not in a gambling mood. So Dales will punt the football away. And this is Daryl Mitchell on the return up to the 39-yard line. Well, we mentioned Tony Tompkins and one of the plays of the Grey Cup game that helped Edmonton win its 13th Grey Cup championship.
Yeah, and what a play it was. You talked about it, Chris, that it was probably one of the turning points, if not the turning point, to give Edmonton the momentum. And, you know, throughout the years, I've enjoyed that a lot of people have said that the '89 Grey Cup goes down as one of the best, but I have to defer, I think, because last year's Grey Cup was tough to match. I mean, that was some kind of exciting game for our championship.
Well, we could say last year was the best overtime Grey Cup game.
Okay. Thanks for that, by the way.
Ball batted down and falls incomplete. And was that Brian Clark that got a mitt? As those linebackers get involved again.
Yeah, and that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. We've seen Trey Young come down a little bit, but primarily it's the linebackers that are causing Ricky Ray to struggle now as this second quarter goes on. Right in here, you see Brian Clark, and he's going to get pressure as he comes sort of in a secondary rush position. And Ricky Ray is having to try and get it to his first or second read. He can't go to 3 or 4.
He had 8 knockdowns a year ago. 2nd and 10. Ray rolling. And throws it to Andrew Nowacki with a catch at the 50. And he's going to have a first down. Nowacki, a guy that doesn't make many catches, but does make catches in heavy traffic. We'll be back. 2:41 remaining first half. Then it's Wendy's at the half. Dave Randorf, Chris Schultz, Matt Dunnigan, Jock Climie, who are well warmed up after a 1-hour pregame show that was unscheduled. Not a bad night now, but we had some action in the skies that delayed this game for about 40 minutes.
And you don't usually delay games for weather, but lightning is the exception.
1st and 10. And Ray off the back foot. Gaylor thought he had a catch. It's incomplete on the one hop.
You know, with this new field, one of the things that can help officials in ruling on a play like this is whether or not that black rubber jumps up off the turf as it bounces, and you could see there as the ball skips off the ground, the black rubber comes up out of that turf, and that's just a tool for the officials to take a look and say, oh yeah, no, that touched. There's all those little black pellets that are basically just rubber that is ground and crushed up.
Really a beautiful field, and it just blends right into the natural grass on the outside of the field. There's a completion. Jason Tucker with a catch, and they're going to mark him at the 50-yard line and a yard or 2 short of the first down in Calgary territory. 3rd and 1. And this is a spot where Danny Machocha will likely go for it. would prefer a measurement, I would think, to really get a chance to size things up.
It may be a long yard. Ricky Ray, 31-15 in 4 years as a starter for the Edmonton Eskimos. Versus the Calgary Stampeders, 5-3. There is how far he has to go. So it's a yard. It is exactly a yard almost.
I wonder how concerned he is about this offense. It did not produce a preseason touchdown. In the last 5 regular season games last year, no touchdown passes. And here we are with the Eskimos not yet on the board with less than 3 minutes to play first half.
That has to be the concern. That has to be what Danny Machocha is worried about. On the upside for the Edmonton Eskimos, you know, to be down at this point 7-0. This could easily be 21-7 if there's an interception along the way for Edmonton. 21-7 Calgary if they take advantage of the early turnovers.
Oh, they are going for it. It's 3rd and a full yard. Davis the lone setback. Ray will plunge ahead. Remember the earlier sneak with less than a yard necessary, and they got it by a hair. This time a better surge from that offensive line. And Andre Prue moves the sticks.
Without even a measurement, so that was a good push. You know, and that's one thing that Patrick Kabongo will be great at. Whenever it gets down to short yardage, Patrick Kabongo is that right tackle we've been talking about. He's a big man. I mean, that you go 6'7", 344 pounds. Get that going forward and try and stop it.
That's one big Cornhusker out of Nebraska. Will play action from Ricky Ray and into the flat for Matthew Bertrand.
You see what Ricky Ray is doing now to try and help himself and get away from those linebackers. He's trying to move the pocket a little bit, throw on the rollout, move the pocket inside the tackles. In other words, rather than dropping straight back, he's going right offside the tackles and even sometimes getting outside. And that's just an effort by Danny Machocha and Ricky Ray to change it up offensively to get him outside and away from pressure.
In 2003, Ricky Ray's Eskimo offense was the highest scoring team in the CFL. He left for a year. When he came back last year, the Eskimos were ranked 7th in points scored. Plenty of weapons, though. Underneath, there's Daryl Mitchell, his trademark crossing pattern. And it's a first down. The Eskimos threatening here at the 27 of Calgary with less than 90 seconds to play in the opening half.
Remember how we showed the rotating defense? Here it is again, the rotation from backside halfback where safety comes down. One of the problems with that defensively is it opens up the middle. While these two defenders are rotating, the middle of that defense becomes a little vulnerable as they try and get set up. That's exactly where Edmonton attacks. They go to Daryl Mitchell and he picks up good yardage on his own.
So the Eskimos threatening. 1st and 10, early movement as Demetrius Maxey appeared to jump ahead of the snap. Find out if he was drawn offside. Maxey talked a lot late in the year about wanting his Stamps.
Calgary 91, 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
To win the sack title, and they ended up tied with their arch rivals. 47 apiece to lead the CFL.
1, 2, 3, and yeah. Demetrius Maxey is quick, but he's not that quick.
He was pressured in camp. Latrell Bryant, a backup tonight, made some noise on that defensive line, the young legs, but D-Max hangs in for a 13th year.
The Calgary Stampeders going to go into the locker room at halftime here, shaking their head, saying, guys, we had 3 quick turnovers that we didn't capitalize on. If Edmonton can finish this drive off, a tie ball game, and probably shouldn't be.
Playbook open, 1st and 5. They go inside, trap. Troy Davis, a first down as he goes to the 12. Dragged down by John Grace.
Tim Baker does a nice job at the point of attack in the offensive line. Watch how he's going to just right here in your screen. He's going to open it up very nicely for Troy Davis. He gets out there on Scott Coe right there. And that opens up a nice hole for Davis. So that relatively new offensive line starting to get going.
Quiet night for Davis so far. 1st and 10. Play action. Ray into the end zone. Daryl Mitchell. Touchdown, but a flag is down. And the Stamps are all signaling holding Edmonton.
Well, that play took quite a while to develop, and usually when it does and your quarterback is standing there for all that time, it would indicate holding.
But Stamps were wishful thinking, as apparently it is going against the Stampeders.
Illegal contact on the receiver. Calgary 56. That penalty's declined. Touchdown.
Scott Coe.
Yeah.
And it is an Edmonton touchdown for Daryl Mitchell.
Well, you saw Raheem Abdul. They jumped up, and did Sheldon Napustek, and they jumped up right here. But hold it right about here, guys. Look at this. There's the penalty. You're going to see Troy Davis try and get out of the backfield, and he is tackled right there by Scott Coe.
Extra point is blocked. Trey Young with it, and he's knocked down. So the Eskimos score a major late, but fail to convert. "12-yard touchdown catch by Daryl Mitchell as he climbs the ladder all the time in touchdown receptions.
Watch this guy right here. That's Jermaine Chapman. Keep going with it, guys, as watch out Daryl Mitchell now comes to hold it here again. There's Daryl Mitchell. Remember, we talked about that rotating defense. Chapman doesn't rotate back enough. He gets too shallow and too far to the short side of the field, and Daryl Mitchell takes advantage of the busted coverage.
Couple of receptions for Mitchell on the scoring drive, and wide open behind Jermaine Chapman. The 89th career touchdown reception for Daryl Mitchell.
Let's go, hit it.
And Cody Ryder, look out, J.R. Ruffin upended as he crossed midfield. Sean Fleming had to make the tackle. However, there is a flag back at the Calgary 42-yard line. Ruffin, who earned a spot in the defensive backfield and will return kicks behind Gary Allen this year. And they love his speed, and we got a taste of it there. 52 seconds remaining in this first half, and we'll see how Henry Burris handles.
Holding Calgary 93. 10-yard penalty. First down.
So it comes back on the holding call. 93 would be Terrence Patrick.
Yeah, I think it was David Allen, and just a number mistake there. David Allen, you can see the hold right at the point of attack, and that's one you got to call.
52 seconds to play. Ball at the Calgary 30. Six receiver set. Burris. Kenyon Rambo stretches out. And he'll have a 6-yard gain at the 36. Well, he's in pretty impressive company now.
He sure is. Just past Tom Scott for receiving touchdowns. And there's the list. Daryl Mitchell. It's a little bit closer to another former Edmonton Eskimo, Brian Kelly.
The great Alan Vitz and Milt Stiegel, we thought had number 127 last night. Here's Bo Gibbs. And he's collared by Singor Mobley, short of the first down. Gibbs a big target at 6'4". And it's 3rd down and a yard. And, well, what's Tom Higgins going to do with 40 seconds on the clock?
Well, this becomes that much tougher of a call for Tom Higgins because of where the Calgary Stampeders are on the field. And
I think you punt here, don't you?
I do too, yeah. and here's why. Because a gamble here may not get you any upside because of the time on the clock. There's only 40 seconds left. So the question is, will Henry Burrs, even if you're successful on the gamble, have enough time to get into the area to get some points? So basically, the upside isn't there. The downside is because you're in your own end and you get automatic points for Edmonton if they hold them.
Yeah, and then you're heading to the dressing room with all the momentum going Edmonton's way.
Now, having said that, punting the ball away doesn't mean instant field position when you have Tony Tompkins back there.
Talked to Anthony Calvillo a couple of days ago, though, and he mentioned Tracy Ham's message to him used to be, punting can be an offensive play, and it's not always a bad thing. And I think as you've weighed the pros and cons, this is the right thing to do until Tompkins returns it 80 yards for a touchdown. Well, it won't be Tompkins. It will be Mitchell. And he is met by Khalid Abdullah at the Edmonton 40-yard line with 30 seconds on the clock in the first half.
You know, just in case you're wondering what happened to Sean Fleming on that extra point, let's take a look. First of all, it just looks like he was watching too much of the World Cup and tried to put one in the lower corner. But upon further review, look at the hold. The ball slips off the tee and is basically sideways. Jason Johnson, the holder.
The new holder.
The new holder, and that one slid down onto the grass, and that's why Sean Fleming had the field goal block. It wasn't really blocked. It hit his lineman in the back.
So the punter drops a snap from center. The holder doesn't pin properly, and it has cost Edmonton in this first half. Jason Tucker with a catch at the 52-yard line, and there's enough time for Ricky Ray to put points on the board.
Yeah, there is, and I like that about both offenses when they came on the field. When Henry Burrs came out there, he had about a minute to go and was real aggressive. Of course, that's plenty of time, but Danny Machocha and Ricky Ray, the same thing. They're coming out and trying to get some points, trying to get their offense moving.
No huddle, clock runs. 5 receivers out. Ray goes wide side and wide open, and Hervey gets the first down and gets out of bounds. 16 seconds remain.
Now Jason Johnson gets to think about that botched hold as the Edmonton Eskimos get into field goal range, and he has to go back. And I've been there. And believe me, they can tell you all they want that, no, I let that one go. I had a short memory. But that sits back there, and you think, okay, I gotta make sure I focus. Because you only have about 1.8 to 2 seconds from the time it's snapped to the time it's kicked.
Fleming's longest last year, 48. Right now, it would be 54 yards. Quick hitter inside. And again, Hervey down to the 38, so they are in Fleming range now. And Ed Hervey has answered the criticism of Mr. Lewis and Mr. Copeland in this first half. I think Ed Hervey could still play receiver in this league, and I don't think I require a psychiatrist. No. You might argue that.
Well, not about Ed Hervey, I don't argue about it, but the other part, well, yeah. But this is, again, to remind the fans, Nick Lewis, last couple of days on the radio, said that if you think Ed Hervey is a good football player, I'll be your psychiatrist. And Ed Hervey said he must be jealous that he doesn't have a ring to show for his play.
46-yard attempt for Fleming. Let's see if Johnson holds better. And this one's going to miss and will be brought out by Ruffin. And he does get it out, stopped by Mike Bradley on the final play of the opening half, and the miss and the return by Ruffin preserves a 1-point lead at the half for the Calgary Stampeders. Not a good half for the Eskimos offense as we throw it to Dave Randall.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks, Glenn. Dave Randolph, Chris Schultz, Matt Dunnigan, and Jock Climby watching a sloppy first half for the Grey Cup champs. These guys are going to weigh in on that. We're also going to tell you how the afternoon kind of went downhill for the Argos, despite the fact they got a win today against Hamilton. But right now, the story at McMahon, the Eskimos turning the ball over, missing kicks. They had 3 turnovers in that first half. That one on a botched punt attempt, then a fumble by Troy Davis. Come back, we'll talk about it.
Live at the half, brought to you by Wendy's, the official hamburger of the CFL. Do Wendy's, do what tastes right.
Well, here's a look at the old Boston Pizza CFL poll question we asked you earlier tonight. Which player on a new team has been the most impressive at this very early stage of the season? You voted and said, Ricky Williams. We'll tell you about him. They did win today at the Rogers Centre in Toronto against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. More on that in a moment. But first, we got to talk about this game we're watching between the Eskimos and the Stampeders. Sean Fleming with a missed field goal and a missed convert within about 2 minutes. By the way, that does not happen very often, especially for Fleming. In his 14 years, it only happened 4 times, not since 2002. I don't know who should be more disappointed, the Eskimos for the sloppy first half or for the Stamps for not having more points.
Oh, Dave, the Calgary Stampeders should be more disappointed in this game. You know, there's the execution of football plays and there's the plays you call. And I think Edmonton is doing a great job of calling plays in front of the linebackers, allowing their offense to really create some confidence. Ricky Reyes having a great day because Danny Machocha is not asking him to do a lot. These little out patterns, crossing patterns, line of scrimmage screens, easy to complete, easy to gain confidence. Now, Henry, they're throwing long. They're throwing over the linebackers. Much more difficult passes to complete. One of the issues in this game, when you look at all the possessions in the first half for the Calgary Stampeders, Henry Burst, they've had 9 possessions. 6 have been 2 and out. 1 was 3 plays, 1 was 4 plays. The longest they've had has been 6 plays. They don't have any momentum right now. They've got to change their approach a little bit or they're going to have some problems in the second half, Jock.
Yeah, and, you know, on the defensive side of the ball for Calgary, they are doing some of the things that I looked at them doing at the beginning of the show. We talked about confusing that young offensive line for Edmonton, and we talked about how you've got to give them different looks, and they certainly did that, and that's how they got one of their turnovers. And I'm going to show you what I mean here. Have a look here at the defensive lineman who's going to actually drop back into coverage. Same on this side, and then you're going to see Clark, who's right here, come up the A-gap on a delayed blitz. And watch the confusion this creates on the Edmonton offensive line. You're going to see Clark here is going to come scot-free up the middle because you've got, hey, Edmonton has got 7 people in blocking. So why is it no one is touching Clark? Because they're confused, and here's the evidence of the confusion. You've got 3 Edmonton blockers on 1 rusher over here, and there is 2 on 1, and there you see Clark in all alone, untouched. And this is a great job by Calgary scheming the Edmonton Eskimos and creating a turnover. And I like to see, hey, the Edmonton Eskimos regrouping at halftime. They're drawing it up, X's and O's on the board, making sure that doesn't happen again.
Bill McDermott's going crazy right now. That guy that was getting triple team there, John Grace, linebacker.
Got to pay attention to him.
You guys know that I love linebackers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you what, the reason why I like these linebackers, because on the football field and playing a game of football, they're probably the most versatile athlete. They're asked to do a lot of things. And here we see Tony Tompkins getting smacked by Khalid Abdullah and Scott Coe. And watch this. This is a slobber knocker right here, and I love these. Why? Because the linebackers are delivering it and making plays. Now, we saw Khalid Abdullah. He's the younger brother of Raheem Abdullah, defensive lineman for the Edmonton Eskimos. Now, get this, guys. Raheem, he's 6'5", 277. His younger brother, by 3 years, is 6'2", about 231. Growing up, do you think this guy was getting it handed to him by Raheem just a little bit?
Maybe.
Hey, I love these linebackers because they're asked to do a lot. They're hard-nosed, and they simply go out there and get the job done. We see it on special teams, play after play.
Hey, Khalid is keeping George Whitespot warm for now, but he's been very noticeable in this game for sure. The rookie from where? Mars Hill?
Mars Hill in North Carolina, the South Atlantic Conference.
Earlier today at the Rogers Centre in Toronto, the Argonauts opened their season against the Hamilton Tiger Cats and got a 27-17 victory. It was a good game. Jason Moss looked good for the Ticats, but threw a costly interception late. Damon Allen, broken middle finger in his first series, taking a late hit from Wayne Shaw, and he has gone 4 to 6 weeks. That is on his right hand, his throwing hand. The other big stat there was Ricky Williams in his first game, 97 yards, rushing for the Argos. Thoughts?
Well, with all due respect to the fans who voted about who the biggest impact of a new player, Corey Holmes. This guy had 13 for 85 rushing. It had to fill in for obviously an injured Josh Ronnick, and he had 10 catches for 70 yards receiving. That's a huge game. He had an outstanding performance. I thought Ricky Williams got the bulk of his carries and yards near the end of the game when it really didn't matter as much.
Schultz, you talked about how you thought the Winnipeg Blue Bombers could take away from their loss that they had in Montreal.
Absolutely.
I think Hamilton can do the same thing in this ball game that they played just played against Toronto. Why? Because they did so many good things. I think this is a team that is on the edge, is certainly going to bust out and have a much better season than they saw last year.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Number one thing about learning is you have to understand everyone analyzes all this film in the greatest level of detail. So they'll figure out what didn't work this time, make sure it works next time.
Didn't mean to interrupt you there, big boy.
That's all right.
You know,
That's the last time that's going to happen.
Never do that to you, ever. Spurgeon Wynn will now carry it. Look good, by the way.
Look great.
Former Winnipeg Blue Bomber will face his old team next week. Here's Jermaine Copeland, 29 yards receiving for him, including taking that one away from the DB. 7-6 Stamps. Here are the halftime numbers brought to you by Coors Light, the Silver Bullets. Jocko?
Well, here's the reason why Edmonton's only got 6 points. It's got to do with the 3 turnovers here. But I love the passing yard that Edmonton's got going here. Calgary, on the other hand, has got to do better moving the football and taking advantage of the balls that Edmonton is just handing to them.
Yeah. So we know Danny Machocha. You know him very well, having played for him in Montreal. He's not the real fiery guy that's going to rip everybody after the first half of the first game, or am I way off here?
No, that's not Danny's style. That's not.
Machocha's got a little fire in the belly now.
Yeah, he does, but he's not the type of guy who's going to just get everyone in the locker room and start ripping them to pieces. I mean, he's going to try to encourage them, find out what's wrong and what's not working. I mean, he loves the X's and O's. I think that's what he'll focus on at halftime.
Well, I think in this situation he has to. I mean, you know, they're lucky to still be in this ball game, turn the ball over 3 times, you know, but that offense at Calgary that has been talking noise for the last week, you know, has not done anything with those opportunities like you mentioned in the stats there.
This game makes no sense to me at all. Not at all. I mean, Ricky Ray should be on his back about 10 times based on logic. This isn't a logical game.
Maybe logic will, you know, come to the forefront in the second half.
I hope so.
Hey, have you ever been to the driving range with Climby? This is what it looks like right here. Because, you know, he's a lawyer, right? So he bills $300 an hour. He's only got 15 minutes to hit a bucket. And this is what he does.
Well coordinated.
Set for the second half at McMahon Stadium. It's a 1-point Stampeder lead as we join Heath Brown with Edmonton coach Danny Machocha.
Danny, talk about that first half that sees you trailing just by 1 point.
Well, you don't know what to think of. I mean, we came out and, you know, we're turning over the football on our own 2-yard line. Unfortunately, our defense kept it to 3 points, and then we had another turnover as we're driving. So we got to stay away from the turnovers, stay away from the penalties, and just play our style of football, which is just be patient, take what they give you, and good things will happen.
199 yards passing, you have to be pleased with that.
Well, pleased, but you got 6 points to show for it. So we just have to put it all together and just obviously cash in on certain opportunities that are presented.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you.
Well, Ricky Ray does put up numbers in that first half, but the number on the scoreboard is the most important. As you could see, that the last stretch of the regular season last year, this team struggled getting it in the end zone, and it took till the final minute here in the opening half.
Yeah, and give some credit to the linebacking core and the front 7 of the Calgary Stampeders, who, at least in the first quarter, all over Ricky Ray, and then Ricky Ray got them some things going, and some of that yardage, or a lot of that yardage, in the second quarter.
So for Ray, his last touchdown pass in the regular season prior to tonight was in week 13 of last year. So not a particularly well played opening half, but it's early in the season and we could have some fireworks in the second half. Sandro DeAngelis came out early and was working on his game, kicking field goals during the halftime to get his stroke down. Not sure what the delay is here. Now the officials getting into position. And I think Andre Proulx set to go. Tony Tompkins and Mike Bradley are deep. And it will be Bradley. And Mike Bradley out across the 35-yard line. First contact made by Joey Bosse. Well, usually when a quarterback has about 200 yards and a half, you think he was pretty sharp. What was your assessment?
Well, first of all, they have to eliminate the turnovers that Danny Machocha talked about, but I thought that Ricky Ray started to change up the offense by moving the pocket around a little bit, and they may want to go back to Troy Davis. Troy Davis can always bring you that balance offensively and maybe open up the passing game and play action.
And we talk about the struggles this team had last year before Troy Davis, and it was the fact they did not have a running game. In fact, this team was ranked last rushing the football in 2005, and Ricky Ray met up Sheldon Nepashchuk and Demetrius Maxey meet at the quarterback.
There's the pressure I just alluded to, and that's what's been a bit of the problem. Not that Ricky Ray has taken a lot of sacks, but he has taken hits, and he has had to rush his throws, and that's because of the pressure from the front seven. You'll see it again. Sheldon Nepashchuk and Demetrius Maxey just in front of Brian Clark, the nose guard, and then step right into Ricky Ray.
Loss of 7, 2nd and 17, a flag down, and a pass intended for Trevor Gaylord falls incomplete. And another late flag comes down in the neighborhood of the intended receiver.
Well, I know fans have heard this many times, that it takes offenses a little bit longer to gel than it does defenses when you're coming out of training camp, and it is a very short training camp, relatively speaking. I mean, back in the old days, it used to be a month and a half of training camp. Over 120 people would show up, and now it's basically 2 weeks, 2 preseason games. So offenses take a little bit long. Having said that, this is a sloppy game offensively for both teams.
Offside. Edmonton 83. Illegal contact. Calgary number 3. The difference is 5 yards. It will be still 2nd down.
Kobe Reinhardt with the illegal contact. Jason Tucker was offside. And it will be 2nd and 11. And there's the contact.
The reason that was called illegal contact is because the ball was not catchable.
Ray with time and a receiver at midfield, and it is Hervey with another catch. He's been the prime target so far tonight.
One of the points of emphasis for the officials and all of the head coaches in the offseason was pass interference and illegal contact, and you can see the ball in the air here, and when the ball is in the air, normally a call would be pass interference, and Edmonton fans may be wondering why that wasn't pass interference with the ball in the air. But what they talked about now is if the ball is not catchable, then the penalty becomes illegal contact, not pass interference.
4th catch for Hervey, 36 yards on the night. First down at the Edmonton 52. Play action, and now Davis on the screen. And Troy Davis slipped on his own, and he's downed at the Calgary 52-yard line. Gain of 6 for Davis.
Well, this is one way, Chris, to use Troy Davis in there, and I want to show you how this guy right here, Brian Clark, saves the day for the Calgary Stampeders by his angle. Troy Davis just going to sneak out. He chips that block. Now he's coming out of the backfield now. Hold it right there, guys. You see Brian Clark right there, how he flashed to the right. And that made Davis cut back to his right, and when he did, he slipped.
2nd and 4. And Ray, incomplete, short hops, Gaylord on the wide side.
And this is what I'm talking about, a sloppy football game offensively for both teams. I mean, Troy Davis makes that cut 99 times out of 100 and doesn't fall down. You know, that ball is complete 99 times out of 100 from Ricky Ray. It just, for whatever reasons, whether it be weather, early in the season, the opponent, I'm not sure. But right now, both offenses just look sloppy.
Well, if you joined us late the first time, Rodney Williams dropped back to punt. He dropped the snap from center and was downed at the 2-yard line. He kicks this out of bounds and appears to be gaining some confidence, and they are going to mark this at the 16 of Calgary. Welcome back to McMahon Stadium. Once again, we want to apologize for the problems we're having with our virtual first down line tonight. At the 16, the Stamps go to work, and here's Joffrey Reynolds with room off the right side, past Wiltshire, into the secondary, across midfield, and down to the Edmonton 40-yard line. 54 yards for Joffrey Reynolds.
A little bit of a change up, first of all, for the Calgary Stampeders, because they're going to go with the 2-back set. There's both backs. The second arrow is Joffrey Reynolds, and watch him take this little delayed draw. Makes a great move down the field on Kelly Wiltshire, but this is a tough one for Wiltshire because now he has to try and make a tackle on one of the best running backs in the game with lots of field around him.
100-yard carries or games last year, and he has his first of this season and his first against the Eskimos. He had just 95 yards in 3 games last year in the regular season. 109 here early in the 3rd quarter.
Well, it's tough for a safety when the running back, and especially one of the abilities of Joffrey Reynolds, breaks into the open like that, and Kelly Wiltshire now has to come up and try and make a tackle. He makes a great move on him, Reynolds does, to get to the outside, but well, that's a tough situation on your safety.
His longest run last year, 46 yards, so that is a personal best. He averaged 5.9 yards a carry in 2005. They fake to Reynolds, and Burris looking downfield, and he's got Nick Lewis, who was quiet in the first half, and it's rare that we say Nick Lewis is quiet.
Well, maybe he's going to let his play do the talking in this second half, and he just stays with the pattern here, really. Shannon Garrett was coming underneath. He's trying to drop defensively and get underneath this throw, and he looks like he let up thinking that Nick Lewis may have let up in behind him, and of course Lewis didn't and took it out of bounds. Here's the matchup. See, Garrett gets a little jam. Now he's going to just let up when he jumps right about here. He'll let up a little bit, and it falls right into the arms of Lewis.
First catch, 18 yards for Lewis, and now back to Reynolds. Another big hole up the middle. Reggie Durden had to step up, and Reynolds is brought down at the 14-yard line, close to another Calgary first down.
Boy, and I know this won't be, I'm not going to make a huge announcement here, but if I'm Steve Barato, I'm handing the ball to 21. I am feeding 21 with the ball. He has jump in his step, and right now Joffrey Reynolds looked like he has a little bit more bounce, a little more sense of urgency than every other player on the field right now. If you're Steve Barato, why not just feed him the rock?
Second down and a yard. And the plunge ahead should have the first down.
You know, and that's when your teams are struggling, and we talked about it in coming out of the start of this quarter with Ricky Ray and having Troy Davis more involved. Well, it doesn't change for Henry Burris, Steve Barato, and the Calgary offense. When your passing game struggles, where do you go to? You lean on that big back behind you. That's why he gets all that money.
Best rushing performance in Calgary in 30 years, and there's some talk that he could challenge Willie Burton's record of 1,975 yards here. Flag down, Burris with time to reload, and now look the other way, and that one picked off.
Oh, no.
Intercepted by Gerald Dixon at the goal line, and let's find out what these flags are all about.
If Henry Burris dumps the ball to Joffrey Reynolds, the horse is making a lap.
Oh, he's looking skyward, knowing that he chose the wrong option. And it is a penalty against Calgary.
Offside. Calgary 82. Penalties decline. First down, Edmonton.
Boy, I tell you what, Joffrey Reynolds is wide open. I mean, he is right here, folks, and what he's going to do is he's going to flare out here, and guess what? No one is around him. He walks into the end zone, and Burris just takes a look. He is wide open, and Burris decides to go the opposite field, takes too long, and Gerald Dixon steps in front of him.
Look like two Calgary receivers in the same area, and Dixon in the middle comes up with the pick. Troy Davis with a change of direction and a big run of his own up to the 45, and it's 20 for Troy Davis. And suddenly, we have offense at McMahon Stadium.
Back to the backs, right? Let's get back to the backs. And I have many a strategy talk with Matt Dunnigan. And Dunnigan, of course, the former quarterback. And it always seems to, when we talk about offenses and how you can get out of slumps and what happens in different passing, he always gets back to, I go to the running game. I just turn around and give it to the back.
Now, Climby wouldn't like that, but Schultz would like that idea.
Schultz would love it.
Out of the backfield, Davis there, and a big collision. There's Khalid Abdullah once again. Into the grill of Davis with a heavy hit.
You know, he's made a couple of mistakes, and you got to give him some time to learn all the rules and make sure he knows what's going on with the Canadian Football League. But he has made some plays, and Abdullah has been around the football. Again, big shoes to fill when you're trying to step in for George White. I mean, George White, as good as it gets. So
but he even beat out an incumbent in Cornelius Anthony to get White's spot until he's ready to come back, and it looks like he's going to keep that spot. Wide open in the flat. Andrew Nowacki has his second catch of the night.
You know, and now the Calgary Stampeders, and one of the reasons that Abdullah is coming up and making those hits, and you're seeing open receivers on the sideline like Nowacki there, is that Calgary is now dropping into some zone defense. So because of that, Ricky Ray is going to have to be patient. That will make Khalid Abdullah more of a dropping linebacker, dropping to a spot, playing the eyes, and reacting to the football when Ricky Ray throws it. See how patient he can be. Sorry.
Excuse me, another rain shower here at McMahon Stadium. The offense moving. It's a first down in Calgary territory. And a great play-action fake. And Ray on the bootleg steps out at the Edmonton bench. Looks like he gets at least 5 on the play, pending the spot.
Again, another example of zone defense from Calgary. Right over here is Chapman, the halfback, Jermaine Chapman. Now he's going to just drop in the zone, and he gets to the outside. So Ricky Ray wants to throw that up, but stop it right there. See, Chapman is on the sideline. He's just playing a space. He's playing an area in the field. Ricky Ray has to pull it down because he can't get it over Chapman to Tucker.
And Demetrius Maxey, the veteran defensive end, looks like he's cramping up at the Eskimo bench. And Ladurl Bryant will likely have to come in. Got a timeout on the field. Less than 7 minutes to play. Third quarter at McMahon. Well, once again this season, when a quarterback is sacked, Purolator will donate his weight in food to a local food bank. Purolator, where business is going. And it was a dead heat last year between the Alberta rivals. 1-0 tonight in favor of the Stampeders in the sack department.
So you put Calgary first there because we're in Calgary? Is that why you?
The guys say alphabetically.
Ah.
Remember last night, Doug Barry, alphabetically. That's why Winnipeg was ranked 4th in the preseason polls in the East.
How about Timothy Strickland? 4 sacks. He's leading the race this year by himself.
2nd and 6. The skies have opened up here, and Ricky Ray trying to open up the offense, but that pass falls incomplete.
See who was covering on the play there, Chris, was Joey Bose, and Joey Bose is going to be asked to do some different things in the defense this year. Last year he was the starting halfback for the Calgary Stampeders, and when they looked at the film, they felt that offenses and started to self-scout in the offseason. They felt that offenses were going after Joey Bose a little bit. Maybe his one-on-one skills weren't quite there, but they can't take him off the field because he's such a great player.
Oh, Inglis high snap through the hands, and now a little soccer from Williams, who broke one tackle but is wrestled down. And for the second time tonight, the punter unable to get a punt off for Danny Machoch's Eskimos. The 2006 FIFA World Cup from Germany continues on TSN and Rogers Sportsnet. All games available in high definition. And tomorrow, Japan and Croatia at 8:30 on TSN, available in HD. Today, the United States bouncing back after a horrible opener and a 1-1 draw with Italy. So after the miscue, Calgary takes over. Back to Joffrey Reynolds. Left side, more running room. And Reynolds broke a tackle down to the 30-yard line, padding his impressive stats.
The Edmonton Eskimos are down by a point, but probably shouldn't be, because it's been this kind of night for the Eskimos on special teams. Rodney Williams with his second fumble, a catchable ball. Danny Machocha can't believe his eyes. Yes, it's raining. Got to handle that football.
12 for Reynolds, a first down at the Edmonton 30, a 6-receiver package. Burris in trouble, and down he goes. Dropped by Rob Brown, returning to the Edmonton Eskimos. First 4 years of his career in Edmonton, the next 4 in Montreal, and Rob Brown back. A much-needed sack there to even up the Purolator totals on the night.
Boy, and you have to, you know, the Medal of Honor for the Edmonton Eskimo defense, who continue to just sort of bounce back after their offense or special teams hands the ball in perfect or good position for the Calgary Stampeders, and they continue to struggle. Now Burris has another down to do something with it, but that Edmonton defense keeps making plays.
A couple of new fathers involved, Brown and Burris, who will both celebrate their first Father's Day tomorrow as proud dad. 2nd and 16. Brett Ralph a catch. Back to the original line of scrimmage, and not much more with Gerald Dixon and Malcolm Frank in the neighborhood. So once again, the Stamps really not making Edmonton pay for their mistakes.
No, you know, again, the Edmonton Eskimos have to feel good about the play of their defense, but that's about it right now. Both teams' offense is struggling. Yes, the weather and the conditions are a factor. And Tom, Coach, in our conversation, he talked about maybe going to the bullpen if he had to. And you wonder about Danny McManus. Coach Higgins decides, as this game continues, if Henry Burris continues to struggle, would he make the change in game 1?
36-yard attempt for DeAngelis. 2 for 3 so far. And in the wet conditions, nails it to add to Calgary's lead. 10-6 at McMahon. You can vote for today's Rogers Player of the Game during the 4th quarter and send it to Go CFL. 4 minutes to go here in the 3rd quarter of this defensive struggle. Ricky Ray, Troy Davis. And Davis up to the 42-yard line with 7 on that first down play. So the Eskimos have hung around in the opening game of their defense of the Grey Cup. Just one team has repeated as Grey Cup champions in the last 24 years, the Toronto Argonauts. The last time the Eskimos won the Grey Cup, they lost their first 3 the next season, ended up 9-9 and lost the Western Semi to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Tough to win, even tougher to repeat. Ray on 2nd and short. And he has the first down. Matthew Bertrand, the fullback, has been a handy guy out of the backfield tonight. And Danny Machocha this week talked about he and Mike Maurer being 2 of the Canadians who are now moving into a stage where they can play more of a leadership role.
Well, and that's what they need to lean on. When there's lots of changes, you have to go back to those veterans who know the system, that know how it works in Edmonton, and try and have some of those guys that have been around for a little bit become the leaders.
Looks like the latest cloud burst has just about blown over. First down at the 48. Ray rolling, tracked down, and a pass skips short of Daryl Mitchell. We're going to join Heath Brown on the sidelines with A.J. Gass.
Thank you, Chris. A.J., first off, give us a thought on this one.
It's exactly what you expect out of these two teams. I think with the field position that their offense had in the first half, and for them only to have 10 points on the board is a huge compliment to our defense. We establish a ground game, and I think we take over.
When can Eskimo fans expect you back in the lineup?
As soon as possible. Actually, I'm just trying to get in shape and get where I need to be to come out and compete.
And on behalf of everyone at TSN, please accept our condolences on the death of your mother.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully see you next week.
Thank you.
Chris?
Well said, Heath. We want to echo those comments. AJ's mother passing at the age of 54. Ricky Ray over the middle. There's Trevor Gaylor, dropped the ball. And it bounces out of bounds. And the Stampeders unable to touch it, and Gaylor has a catch. And the Eskimos maintain, oh no, yes, they're going to call it a catch, and they maintain possession.
Yeah, fumbled it out of bounds. And I was just about to say that Trevor Gaylor coming across the middle does a nice job of securing the ball. It's a wet ball in this rain, and he gets his arms up there, and then as he turns to run with it, it goes off his knee and out of bounds. But no Calgary Stampeder touched it on the way, and Jason Tucker made sure of that. He kind of guarded it on its way out of bounds.
Ricky Ray trotted to the sidelines, but he wanted a chance to confer with Danny Machocha on this first down call. Play action. No pressure. He'll load it up and then dump it off. And Bertrand with the catch off his shoe tops and brought down at the 41-yard line. Gain of 6. It looked like he wanted to go deep and changed his mind at the last second.
Yeah, he did, because of the zone defense that the Calgary Stampeders are playing. He wanted to go deep because he had so much time once he got outside of containment. Once he got outside, he thought, okay, I've got time to throw the football. Let's load up and see if we can get a big play here. But well covered downfield, so he has to dump it off. And Ruffin comes up, the newcomer playing out there on the corner, comes up, or the halfback, I should say, and puts a pretty good hit right there on Matthew Bertrand.
Khalid Abdullah around the football again. Stampeders apparently have challenged that Bertrand didn't make the catch. This is their first challenge, and our first challenge of the night. It was right in front of the Stampeder bench, so apparently they feel they had a better eye on that play than the officials. So Andre Proulx is under the hood, and we'll find out if Bertrand did indeed make the catch.
Well, interesting here. I mean, Tom Higgins has a freebie basically when it comes to review. If he is unsuccessful in changing the minds of the officials here, he will not lose a timeout because he hasn't challenged anything so far. Each team gets 2 challenges. The first one is basically a freebie. The second one, if unsuccessful, will cost you timeout. And from that angle, tough to tell. Remember,
there was an immediate reaction from the Calgary bench when Bertrand appeared to get possession of the football.
But is it indisputable evidence?
Absolutely. Is that conclusive? Hard to say. And they have another half minute to see if we have any other angles on that play.
But not a terrible time for Tom Higgins to use that first one when you consider this third quarter almost over. And this is a key situation because 2nd and 4 or 3 is a lot different than 2nd and 10.
And this is even a chance to maybe just cool Ricky Ray down as he seems to be gaining some momentum.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands.
Yeah, I don't think there was any choice because there just wasn't enough evidence to overturn it, even though they were standing right there and probably saw some of those little pieces of rubber bounce up.
But while 90 seconds of video replay time elapsed, Ricky Ray has a chance to confer with Danny Machocha as the drive continues. 2nd and 3 at the Calgary 40-yard line. Eskimos with nearly 100 yards more total offense so far, but trailing. And here's Davis, and he stopped behind the line of scrimmage. John Grace came up and met him and brings him down.
You know what? That's not a bad call, like you mentioned, Chris, for Tom Higgins to use that challenge there to get his defense regrouped. Turned out it worked out pretty well for him. But now he has one timeout in this half and one challenge. And that challenge he has to be careful when and how he uses, because if he's unsuccessful, now he loses the timeout. So that is the downside, although it worked out well in the short term.
We're in the final minute of the third quarter. Rodney Williams in. 2 mishaps on Eskimo punts so far tonight. This handled cleanly, and an angled punt will bounce into the end zone and out for a single point. So it is now a 3-point Calgary lead, and Williams would have preferred to have kicked that one out inside the 10, but not inside the end zone. Well, catch the final round of the U.S. Open on TSN tomorrow, noon Eastern, 9 o'clock Pacific time. Available in TSN HD. Let's take a look at the leaderboard. Phil Mickelson going after another major title. And Mike Weir
can make a run.
Still in the hunt, but Phil Mickelson's won 2 straight majors, and he'll be the man to catch tomorrow. Burris to the wide side through the hands of Brett Ralph. Ralph with 3 touchdowns last year, 2 against Edmonton.
And I know you got to have balance in your offense, and I know you can't just get locked in, but it's a pretty simple game, and 21 looked pretty good.
129 yards good.
And I just, you know, I wonder why you just don't ride the horse.
Well, he has supplied over half the horsepower on offense tonight. 129 yards of 237 net offense. 2nd and 10, Burris hesitates, now throws, and has a completion to Elijah Thurman. Close to a first down. They're going to mark it just short of the 45-yard line. And we may have a 3rd down coming up when we return for the 4th quarter in Calgary. That's after 3 quarters, brought to you by Rona, proud league-wide sponsor of the CFL.
Just look at the left column, 307 yards net for the Edmonton Eskimos. You would think they'd have a bunch of points on the board with 307 yards, but then you'd see the 4 turnovers below that and say, well, Calgary probably does too. Because of those turnovers, they would have taken advantage. Not the case. 10-7.
You know, Suits, so much of the focus obviously here in Alberta was north tonight in Edmonton, and now that that game's over, there's a Game 7 coming up in the Stanley Cup Final. I think it's safe to say we saved the best for last in this game, because it hasn't been a typical barn-burning Battle of Alberta, but we've got 1 quarter to go.
Yeah, congratulations to the Oilers, and hey, we're going to see these teams get going if they get their running backs involved a little bit more, and we probably will see that in this quarter.
3rd and 1, and a plunge ahead for the first down by Henry Burris. So here we go, a 3-point Calgary lead in a mistake-laden evening at McMahon. Good surge by the Buffet boys up front of Henry Burris. Stampeders have failed to capitalize on Eskimo mistakes so far and cling to this lead. Burris under pressure, bounces outside and heads upfield, and he'll slide out near midfield with Quincy Stewart in pursuit.
Good upper body strength from Henry Burris to be able to fight off that initial rush, because it looked like he was caught right about here. But he just pushes himself back about 3-4 yards, just basically buys some time so he can buy the corner. And this is what Henry Burris can bring to the table, and that's his ability to run with the football. And that's one way that quarterbacks that are struggling, that's the other way to get them in. One is to get the running backs going, the other is to run with the football yourself.
Haven't seen Henry take off much tonight. He was the 2nd leading rushing quarterback last year, behind only Kerry Joseph. 2nd and 3 to 4, and that play doesn't get off, and looked like The Stampeders jumped early. So they go from a good play call situation, second and 3.
Calgary 64, 5-yard penalty, still second down.
Jeff Pilon called on that procedure call. But you're right, it goes from advantage offense to advantage defense. Now it goes to the defense advantage because their playbook opens up. They can run blitz, they can show blitz, drop out of it. A lot of things possible on defense when it's second and long.
Burris has thrown 1 interception tonight. He threw just 2 in the last 8 regular season games of 2005. Second and 8. Time to take a long look. And flushed again. Quincy Stewart there, and Burris brought down near midfield. He'll be at least a yard short of the first down.
Again, this is what we're talking about. The Edmonton Eskimos on defense have a chance to have the advantage in the play because of their playbook being wide open. Linebacker here, showing blitz. Guess what they all do? They back right out of there. They show the blitz. Henry Burris recognizes that they're dropping. Now it's a zone defense. He's got more time, but he doesn't have open receivers. Changes things up for the Edmonton defense, and they finally track him down.
Charles Austin from the defensive end position finishes Burris off. They're 2 yards short, and so Burke Dales comes in, and Tony Tompkins drops deep. Angled punt by Dales, and Tompkins will not be able to play it. 12:32 to go, 4th quarter. It's a 3-point game. Well, see the future of the NHL as TSN brings you the 2006 NHL entry draft from Vancouver. Coverage begins next Saturday at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 Pacific. The end of the hockey season is in sight. It's not over yet, but
not yet. So you mean when I'm golfing, I can still play lift, clean, and place? Because as long as the NHL is still playing its winter rule.
That's your story.
That's
it. Sticking to it.
That's right. We got a couple more days.
A couple more nights on White Avenue, apparently. Here's Ray, seam route, and a completion that's still going, but Tucker drops the ball. Calgary's on it. Reinhardt up with it. Check that, J.R. Ruffin. And Ruffin still going.
Oh,
he lost it. And Calgary gets back on it. And Denny Coe ends up with it.
And Denny Crehan may just go up to Ruffin and just tear his head right off. He ran halfway down the field to get to him.
Oh, Cedric Williams finally got the handle on the football on one of the wackiest play of the night.
Well, first of all, the ball was dropped over the middle, and it looked like Daryl Mitchell ran right by it. Seam route coming from the right of your screen. Now, here's a nice catch and run. Jason Tucker drops the football. Now, there's the bat, and that's why Daryl Mitchell went by it. Now, Ruffin decides after all of this, he's going to try and pitch it backwards. And Denny Crehan, the defensive coordinator, he must have ran about, he's up at the top of your screen. He's running. He's coming down the sideline ready to get somebody. And I think he's wearing 28.
Yeah, the front half of this play for Ruffin, a lot prettier than the back half.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Illegal block. Calgary 53. 10-yard penalty on the run back. First down.
So the Calgary Stampeders keep the football, but Denny Crehan, the defensive coordinator, boy, was he down there to explain to the rookie? No, you protect the football.
But they are excited about this youngster who has won a job, 23 years of age. They talk about his playmaking and his speed, and we saw a terrific debut by another young DB last night in Montreal, Chip Cox, a co-gladiator.
Yeah, along with Timothy Strickland.
There's Joffrey Reynolds. He drops the football. And Calgary maintains possession. For those of you that joined us late, Reynolds, prior to that carry, 129 yards on the night.
You talked about Ruffin, though, and you know, that was a dumb mistake for Ruffin that didn't cost his football team. But he will learn not to do that. But they are excited about this guy. I love the quote in the paper about what he said about the CFL and the changes from the National Football League and playing in the States. He said, I'm in bump and run, and the receivers can run at the line of scrimmage. That doesn't seem fair.
2nd and 9. Burris with time, gunning it, and couldn't hook up with Nick Lewis. I believe the intended receiver. They also had Brett Ralph in the neighborhood. So again, another Eskimo turnover. And the Stamps are not showing any killer instinct.
You know, I'm gonna give that one to the Edmonton defense, though, because they were quite physical with both receivers that Henry Burris was trying to look at down the seam. One, I believe, was Nick Lewis, but they got jammed into the same area, and that made the throw almost impossible.
Dales to punt it away. Tompkins at his 17 and hauled down immediately. Randy Chevrier, the long snapper, the former Eskimo, with the tackle.
Vote now for today's Rogers.
Well, maybe appropriately, earlier this week, Danny Machocha said it's not how you start, it's how you finish. He hasn't liked a lot about the start tonight.
Remember the West semifinal? Calgary with all the turnovers, and
6 turnovers in that game, and 5 of them were inside the Edmonton 45-yard line. But tonight, the Eskimos are making all the mistakes.
In the words of my favorite show, tonight it's been the opposite.
Troy Davis finds some room and steps outside.
That was Seinfeld, by the way.
Okay.
Here's what's happened to the Edmonton Eskimos in this one, and it started early. Rodney Williams right here has one go through his hands. Calgary settles for a field goal attempt. Another fumble from Ricky Ray. This was a bad snap, a high snap. Williams can't handle it. Change in field position. That's the last one you just saw. That's the bad news for Edmonton. The bad news for Calgary is they only have 10 points to show for all of those miscues.
The only touchdown of the game, Daryl Mitchell for Edmonton. And it's 10-7. 1st and 10, Eskimos at the 18-yard line. Ray dumps it off.
Oh, baby.
Colby Reinhardt and Mike Mowers steps right up.
Well, I know it's a new season, but we've seen the 2 biggest hits of this new season in this game tonight.
Wow. Mike Mauer's been on a couple of those Ultimate Fight cards, and he can step back into that cage again because he'll never get hit any harder than that.
No, yeah, there's good training for him right there.
Whoa. 2nd and 4. Ray with time, a pass behind the intended receiver. Mitchell stretched out, but it is incomplete. And the Eskimos have to kick the ball away.
You mentioned 2nd and 4 before that throw to Mitchell. He would have had to come up with a circus catch, but that was a tough 4 for Mike Mauer. That's a 4 that he will feel for 4 days. Colby Reinhardt in that, and I talked about that earlier hit. Scott Coe and Khalid Abdullah and Tony Tompkins early in this game. 2 hardest hits we've seen so far in 2006 by far.
Rashawn Williams, flag down. Good punt. David Allen. Back across the 45. Was that contacting the kicker? Or a hold on the Eskimos that drew the flag?
Randy Chevrier is pointing to the officials like he's innocent.
He's signaling it's going against Edmonton, but there's another flag about 70 yards away at the other end of the play. And it is a hold against Edmonton. Well, hold both ways. We'll take a timeout and sort it out. "9 minutes remaining, 4th quarter here at McMahon Stadium, offsetting holding penalties, and they're going to punt the football again. 53-yard punt by Williams would have been his best of the night.
Danny Machocha wants to make sure they block Randy Chevrier. He got in there and almost blocked that last punt. Did not contact the kicker, Rodney Williams, but he got close.
Randy, who has won a Grey Cup with the Eskimos. Now I believe co-host of a radio show with Shelton Napastuk here in Calgary. The guys in the trenches are suddenly getting a lot of media exposure. Doug Brown's got his own show in Winnipeg. Another great kick by Williams. This time Kenyon Rambo. And the ball ends up about the same spot near the 45-yard line. Well, the weapon tonight for the Stampeders has been Joffrey Reynolds. He has more rushing yardage than the Stampeders have passing yards. In fact, Henry Burris 10 for 22, 90 yards. So Reynolds has outdone the passing offense by 40. And that's not usually the formula for success.
No, but if you can get that Joffrey Reynolds going, and Henry Burris can use it to his advantage by going with play action and throwing it in, what he's done is gone away from Joffrey Reynolds. And since then, the offense has sputtered.
53 yards on one carry for Reynolds. And you're saying ride the horse here in the last 8:40.
May save the Cowboys.
And we have a break. It's like Bradley cramping up. Here's a sample of what Reynolds has done tonight. The third-year man who had the second best rushing totals in the league a year ago, behind only Charles Roberts of Winnipeg.
Well, it just seemed to me that midway through the third quarter, Joffrey Reynolds just was playing at a different tempo than everyone else on the field. And that included the Edmonton defense. When he was hitting those holes, and these were up around his ears, and he was hitting those holes hard. And when you see a guy playing with that sense of urgency, you know, why not just keep giving it to him?
And again, we don't want to dwell on the Western semifinal. The rash of turnovers by Calgary, two of the most costly were fumbles by Reynolds, and they worked a lot with him in training camp on protecting the football, carrying it a little higher in certain situations. 5 100-yard games last year. He has his first in game one against a very stingy run defense that ranked #1 a year ago. 1st and 10. Henry going up top, looking for Copeland, and overthrows him by a couple of strides.
You know, Shannon Garrett is in coverage on Jermaine Copeland. I believe he covers Copeland stride for stride based on film work, because Garrett knows, he has seen many times Jermaine Copeland come from the opposite side of the formation in motion behind Henry Burris, and then try and hit the line of scrimmage on the fly so he can get more speed to that corner pattern. And I'm sure that Shannon Garrett has seen that many, many times, the veteran of 12 years in the CFL, and he got out of his back pedal immediately and basically just went for a run to the corner.
Give Garrett credit. Most of camp he was in at linebacker as the designated replacement for Stephen Marsh. Donald Brady was hurt. Garrett moves back for this game, and that pass deflected and is incomplete.
Like Sherrod Coates there, Chris. Sorry, he dropped out of his rush end position, and that's one thing that he can give you. He's a little more mobile than Joe Mumford and can play a little more in coverage, but he's going to drop out here, and you're going to see him in this area right here, ended up being in the zone coverage, and that's a guy that would not be counted by Henry Burris.
Brookdale's in on 3rd down.
Hands off him! Hands off him!
Short kick, Tompkins on a run. Look out. Tompkins trying to get outside, and covered and tossed down by Bo Gibbs. Just a 30-yard punt by Burke Dales, and so the Stampeders lose the field position advantage they were enjoying here in the fourth quarter. Midway through the fourth quarter, Eskimos at the 39. Nice play action fake again, and then Hervey open, and he makes a terrific catch on the sidelines and brings it down at the Calgary 41.
Now Ed Hervey went out of bounds and then came back into the field of play to catch that pass, but it's a good no call by the official, because if he does it on his own, he's no longer an eligible receiver. But you can see clearly he was pushed out by Kobe Reinhardt and then comes back in and makes a nice catch. A legal play.
So Hervey has enjoyed a big night. Over 100 yards for him in the game. First down, Ray rolling, drops it off. Troy Davis with a spin inside the 30. And another Eskimo first down, pickup of 12 for Troy Davis out of the backfield.
Well, you can see how they're using misdirection here. Right here is number 1, and there's the fullback number 2. They want to make the defense believe they're going to the left side of the formation with the play action, everything going left, and then Ricky Ray spins out of there, goes backside, and just dumps it off to Troy Davis. A little misdirection from the Edmonton offense.
Eskimos trail by 3 in field goal range, but thinking about a lot more. Another pass to Davis! Inside the 10, and Davis knocked out at the 2. 27 yards for Troy Davis.
Little different formation. There's the 2 backs right there, but this time they split them and they line up so that the defense isn't sure which direction they're going to go. Davis goes from the left side this time, shoots across the formation, and again, Ricky Ray just has to dump it off to him.
7th catch, 74 yards for Troy Davis. And in all-purpose yards, he's getting close to Joffrey Reynolds territory. First and goal. It's Davis again, left side, touchdown, but a flag down on the play, and play, in fact, has been halted. And it is procedure against Edmonton, a costly penalty.
That was real close, but a little bit of movement on the offensive line.
Edmonton 56, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Patrick Kabongo, the right tackle.
Yeah. He just leaned forward. He's right there. I thought Comiskey right beside him may have moved a little bit as well, but you're going to see just a little lean right. Boy, that was close.
With the 344 leaning, and he couldn't stop. I mean, gravity took over. First and goal from the 6. Ray out of the backfield. Matthew Bertrand, touchdown. Bounced off Reinhardt and in for the score. And the Eskimos had their first lead of the night.
And for Kobe Reinhardt, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. Remember Kobe Reinhardt when he came up and hit Mike Maurer? Well, this time he's going to be the nail, because a pretty good hit out of the backfield by Bertrand right there. Bounces right off him and finds the corner of the end zone.
So Matthew Bertrand, who scored a touchdown in the Western semifinal, he was the man that capped that 16-play drive to get the Eskimos back in it. And he caps this drive of 7 plays. Eskimos with the lead. Ricky Ray deploying his backs effectively as receivers to generate that 7-play drive for the major score, 76 yards in 2 minutes, 2 seconds.
Nice adjustment by the Eskimo coaching staff and Danny Machocha to come up with a completely different offensive game plan in that series, in that it involved both the fullback Matthew Bertrand and Troy Davis. A lot of play action, little misdirection, and just dumping the football. Ricky Ray didn't have to make a real tough throw throughout the series, and it was their best one of the game.
Bertrand might have left a little of that tattoo ink on Kobe Reinhardt when he bounced off him. Ricky Ray at 80% in the game, completion-wise. Dave Dickinson happened to be at 80% last night with 5 touchdown passes before he got the hook. That was a good hook, though, last night.
Yeah, that's a good decision. Keep him healthy if you're a BC Lion.
J.R. Ruffin stopped before he got back to the 30-yard line, and now Henry Burris has to come back from a deficit.
I love the sequence here. You get Troy Davis involved with those little dump passes, little play action, dump it out to him in the flat, couple to Troy Davis. You split up the formation. You go with the fullback up on the line and Davis behind him, and then to cap it off, Davis becomes the decoy, and you drop it off to your fullback, Matthew Bertrand. Great coaching, good adjustment on the fly by the Edmonton Eskimos to come up with a new wrinkle.
Maybe the Eskimos got the score from Rexall Place because suddenly they picked up their step, and most of them in the warm-up tonight were wearing the Oiler hats in support of their Edmonton brethren. Roughing penalty after the return, and that sets the Stampeders back a little deeper, makes their job even tougher now. They start from their 15-yard line. And now, does Joffrey Reynolds remain option A or not? Apparently, yes. Cut down, however, couldn't get outside. And brought down by the veteran Malcolm Frank at 37 years of age, 38 November, and apparently not losing a step.
No, he's not, and in fact, he had to go into training camp this year. You mentioned how long he's been in the league, a veteran of 10 years. He goes into camp this year, and he has to win his job back. There was no gifts, no handouts by Danny Machocha at that position, and he did that. Malcolm Frank, remember a couple of years, or yeah, 2 years ago in 2004, 7 interceptions, 5 of them went for touchdowns.
I figure he must be really good because Nick Lewis hasn't once said he's too old. Second and 8. There's Brent Ralph with a catch. Keo Craver right up to limit his gain, and at the 24 they're going to be a yard or 2 short. Well, let's see where the spot is.
You know, and it's a good Calgary spot. I mean, it's a good spot if you're a Calgary Stampeder fan, because it looked to me like Brett Ralph caught that ball about a yard back of where the spot is, and it may be close enough to make it decision time for Tom Higgins.
3:51 on the clock. Do you gamble 3rd and 1 this deep with that much time left?
No, I don't think you do. I still believe if you're Tom Higgins, you've got to believe in what's been one of the strongest defenses in the game, although he's inside a yard, and
it is less than a yard.
Coaches will tell you, if you can't get a yard, then you don't have an offense. If you're a yard or shorter, you've got to believe in the guys up front. So
we saw a similar situation in the final minute of the first half, and they opted to punt. But here with under 4 minutes to go, it's a different situation. They're trailing now, and a sense of urgency as Burris under center.
Well, you know, you've got to believe you're Tom Higgins, you can get this yard. I mean, anytime you're inside a yard, but what makes a few more of those hairs white for Tom Higgins is that this ball has been slick, and if Henry Burris mishandles it at all.
Now, there was movement both ways, and it looked like Bo Gibbs of the Stampeders, 81, was offside. And who moved first? You could argue there were offside on both sides of the line.
Well, this is a deliberate attempt from Henry Burris to draw the Edmonton Eskimos offside. He's going to bark out those signals and change up his cadence. You can see Edmonton jumped. And it looked like on the outside, Calgary did as well.
81 Bo Gibbs, but no question.
Well,
up the middle. Looked like Steve Charbonneau in the interior, and it's going against Edmonton.
Offside. Edmonton 95. 5-yard penalty.
Well, Charles Alston moved inside, and he was the man that moved ahead of the snap of the football first, and Alston draws the penalty, and it is a first down, and it turned out to be no gamble at all.
I got 21. I got 21 over there.
Burris, Lewis, quiet night. Mobley with the tackle. Quincy Stewart in support defensively.
Chris, I don't know if you heard there, it was just coming through the mics, and we picked up some good sounds from the field, but Kelly Wilshire there was yelling, "I've got 21, I've got 21," and that was a man defense from the Edmonton Eskimos, where now they're going to bring Kelly Wilshire from the safety a little bit more and maybe match him up on Joffrey Reynolds and try and play like a monster back almost.
Wilshire on that 97 Argo team that repeated. Trying to repeat with the Eskimos in 2006. Crossing pattern. Lewis broke one tackle, gets 5 extra yards, up to the 45. The 3-minute warning has been given to the benches. It's the Eskimos by 4. Welcome back to McMahon Stadium. 2 minutes, 44 seconds remaining. The Calgary Stampeders with a 1st and 10 at their own 45-yard line. Stamps had led for most of the night, but were unable to capitalize on 5 Eskimo turnovers. The Eskimos with the only major scores in this game, a Darryl Mitchell touchdown reception. The Eskimos even missed the convert on a bad placement by Jason Johnson, and now a go-ahead touchdown by Matthew Bertraw here in the 4th quarter. Fake to Reynolds. Burris, bootleg, midfield, and down to the Edmonton 50-yard line. A first down for Henry Burris. And we had Kevin Glenn last night with a chance to improve his stock and impress the home crowd with the game on the line coming up big. And now Henry Burris in a similar situation.
You know, and Henry Burris is in a similar situation in a lot of ways with Kevin Glenn, whereas Calgary, the fans here, I think, are looking for Henry Burris to do something in key situations like this so they can believe in him. And that was the same situation for Kevin Glenn. Now, he had a couple bad throws right after that. I'm sure throws he'd take back after playing pretty well. Burris has got to try and do the same sort of thing.
Burris delivers high. Thurman brings it down and breaks a tackle and gets some extra yardage. Wilshire forces him out, but Elijah Thurman with a huge catch in traffic.
Yeah, and you know, Elijah Thurman right on the outside. You know, this is confidence from Henry Burris. A nice little jab step there. He breaks out. He's got some time, but look at him climb the ladder and go up. I mean, he's tall as it is at 6'3".
And he sheds Kiyu Craver and has a 20-yard pickup. Best looking Stamps drive of the second half. Burris under pressure. Charbonneau turned up the heat, and Burris throws it away.
Good decision from Henry Burris, and he gets in trouble. Steve Charbonneau right there, rather than take the loss and all the momentum going the wrong way. There's Henry Burris, and watch the pressure he's going to get from the inside. Gets a good push. This is a good decision. No receivers open, and I just got to throw it away and save the loss. Live to play another day.
At the 33, it will be 2nd and 10. receiver package. Pressure on from the safety, Wiltshire. And Burris has to throw that away. And now 1:45 to go. It's 3rd and 10. Do you take 3 and hope you get the ball back?
Wow, that's there are so many scenarios. You take 3, you make it a 1-point game. You go for it now, because if you take 3, you make it a 1-point game. There are lots of ways to score a single point in the CFL, but you have to get the ball back.
You do have a timeout.
You do have a timeout, but that means that you have to take the ball from the Edmonton Eskimos, who, once you give it back to them on a kickoff, basically can end the game.
Well, Tom Higgins is going for it on 3rd and 10. He got a block from Piwan and Alston and gets outside. Can he find anybody? Downfield into the end zone. Touchdown, Nick Lewis.
Well, that'll make the crowd believers in Henry Burris.
He just pulled a rabbit out of the hat.
Unbelievable composure by Henry Burris of the Calgary Stampeders. This is 3rd down. Burris is in all kinds of trouble, has to go all the way to the sideline. And right as he gets close to that sideline, he takes a couple steps back, buys him a few more seconds, and throws up a prayer.
At first, I thought he was looking for Bo Gibbs, who was about 3 yards short of Nick Lewis, but he was going into the corner of the end zone. And Danny Machocha was looking for a video replay. I'm not sure.
Well, let's take another look at the touchdown from Nick Lewis to see if there was a reason that Danny Machocha might want to challenge that. And one could be whether or not Henry Burris was over the line of scrimmage or not when he threw the ball. I don't think it was close.
The line of scrimmage was the 35.
I don't think that was close. Now, Nick Lewis, it looked to me, was well in bounds inside the end zone. Yes, he is, with both feet. So the only thing I can think of is that he was challenging whether or not Henry Burris had crossed the line of scrimmage, because clearly Nick Lewis is in.
Mobley tries to jar it loose, but too late. Burris shows you the arm strength there. It was kind of an off-balance throw on a rope, 35 yards.
But to get that back to that point, Chris, in the defining moments for quarterbacks to try and sell their teams and sell their fans, and I'm confident in the way that Kevin Glenn played in Game 1 in Montreal that he'll bounce back. But it didn't work out for him. It is working out for Burris so far. There is time, but that's a defining moment for quarterback Henry Burris.
And to clarify, Danny Machocha cannot challenge in the final 3 minutes of the game.
That's right.
Tompkins lays it on a hop at the 15. Needs a return and gets out to the 32. So now 85 seconds for Ricky Ray to come back. The margin is just a field goal.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We wanted to see why Danny Machocha might want to challenge, but he couldn't anyway. Inside of 3 minutes in overtime, it has to come from the official upstairs, and clearly they didn't believe that, one, Henry Burris was over the line of scrimmage, or two, Nick Lewis was out of bounds.
Not many nights will you see a quarterback throw for close to 400, and Ray poised to perhaps go over 400 and get his team with just 14 points on the board. But this isn't over. And now Ricky Ray will try to answer. And that nearly picked off as he tried to split 2 defenders, and Brian Clark got his hands on it again.
You know, Brian Clark is a veteran who plays it perfectly. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Brian Clark is right here. Well, let me get it a little smaller for you. He's right here. Okay, there you go. And he's going to drop to his left. and that takes him out of Ricky Ray's sight lines and then breaks back.
2nd and 10. Ray over the middle. It is Brian Clark. And he's stopped at the 30-yard line with 1:13 to go. Clark with the biggest defensive play of the night. And the 6th turnover for the Eskimos.
Well, and this time he does it again using his veteran savvy. The first time he went in the opposite direction. This time Brian Clark right here is going to try and fool Ricky Ray by saying, I'm just going to stay shallow. I'm not going to get deep enough. But you better throw it high enough or I can leap and climb the ladder and bring it down. And that's what Clark does.
And what an intriguing script the Stampeders have written. They talked about redemption for giving away the Western semifinal with 6 turnovers. And here they are with 6 of their own, forcing Edmonton into 6 mistakes. And now poised to win the season opener. Joffrey Reynolds down to the 15-yard line, and 15 more for his impressive totals on the night.
Well, you know, he's had a great night, and he probably should have been used more, but this is the most important time for Joffrey Reynolds because there is still time. The Edmonton Eskimos need a stop, obviously, but if Joffrey Reynolds keeps running like that, they're not going to get it.
147 yards for Reynolds. His personal best, 185 in a game against the Renegades last year. Final minute, 1st and 10. And Reynolds again. This time for a couple and drilled back by Quincy Stewart, the middle linebacker. Again, high school rivals, and Stewart said, we always got the best of them, but he can't say that tonight.
No, he can't. And Joffrey Reynolds tonight over 10 yards per carry. You know, and in fairness to Steve Brattle, it's easy to sit up here and say give him the ball every time. I mean, and that's obviously a bit of an exaggeration. You have to have balance in the offense or you're not going to get anything done. But when Joffrey Reynolds is running that hard, you love to see him with the football in his hands.
Burris conferring with Steve Barato on the sidelines.
But that, you know, I'm going to go back to the play from Henry Burris on 3rd down and 10 with lots of time to have the poise and composure to get all the way to the sideline, bounce back a little bit and find Nick Lewis. That's a defining moment for him, and it may be through this whole season.
And Tom Higgins put the ball in his hands. He left him out there on 3rd and 10. 2nd and 7. And down to the line, Copeland, touchdown! A little window dressing for the Stamps in the final minute.
Yeah, you know, and a little bit of a dance for the Calgary Stampeders, who will probably tell you after this game that they have a lot of work to do because until the last couple of plays here, it's been a pretty sloppy offensive performance. But I think the golf gods are kind of looking down because really, would Danny Machocha tell you that the Edmonton Eskimos deserve to win this football game?
No, the better team is going to win this game tonight. And they are a 10-point lead with 40 seconds to go. The Eskimos with a pair of touchdowns on the night. Then here in this 4th quarter, back-to-back Stampeder touchdowns by those slot backs, Lewis and Copeland, who did very little before the last 5 minutes of the game.
And you know, this entire sequence that has resulted in 2 touchdowns started with a real tough catch by Elijah with Thurman, the newcomer. So he gets into the action as well, but a confident throw for Burris, who's got nothing but confidence after that 3rd down gamble. And he hits Copeland right between the 8 and the 0, a perfect throw. It's a big play, and that's a play that you can build on if you're the Calgary Stampeders offensively.
And it is a imposing, balanced attack they can throw at any defense in the league with people like Thurman, Copeland, Lewis, and Joffrey Reynolds carrying the football.
And I hate the word, Chris, but The Edmonton Eskimos obviously looked flat and a little unfocused, and I hate the word, but could it be a bit of a hangover from the Grey Cup?
Well, we mentioned that was the case after their last Grey Cup victory. They lost the first 3 out of the gate, and there was talk about complacency, a lack of hunger. Danny Machocha maybe was trying to send a message this week when he publicly stated he was hungrier than ever, but his team didn't seem to follow suit most of the night.
No, with the exception of one drive, and give some credit to that defense that were put in tough situations, but that was early on in the game when they were more fresh. But as this game went on, you could tell that certainly the special teams, but offensively they just weren't ready to play tonight.
One thing he was worried about was the number of changes they had to make in a year after wholesale changes last season. Ricky Ray steps up and pulled down. There's the sack for Terrence Patrick.
You know, Chris, we will do the Calgary Stampeders throughout the year, and I bet you somewhere around Labor Day or maybe even beyond that, we'll go and sit down with Henry Burris and ask him how his season has gone. And if it's a successful season at that point, I bet he goes back to that play right there and says, you know, that's really what got us going and what started it. And then he was another confident throw there to Copeland.
A 3rd and 10, 33-yard touchdown pass to Nick Lewis for Henry Burris. He mentioned this week it's not about stats, it's managing the game, and they just managed to find a way to win tonight.
Yeah, they did, and that's really, it's all said and done, it's all that matters. As long as you have one more than the other team. And Tom Higgins will have lots to work with when he looks at the tapes. And he looks at this film, he's got a lot of work to do.
And the way the West is going to be won this year, it would appear, by the balance in the division. You don't want to critique a victory too much.
No.
Take it, move on.
Absolutely. Tougher for Danny Machocha, who will probably take the special teams tape, hand it, not snap it to Rodney Williams, and have him punt it right out of the offices, because their special teams were horrid this night, and offensively just average.
Turnover on downs, the 7th turnover of the game as Mitchell was stopped short by Brian Clark. And nothing new about the Calgary linebackers making an impact, in particular Clark tonight.
Yeah, he would be Cerebro in my, because he's the brains of the unit, right? So my X-Men, I've got Hawk is John Grace, Cerebro Brian Clark, Scott Coke could be Flame.
Yes, oh, he has to be Flame.
He flies around all like he's on fire.
Well, just look at his hair, it's on fire. 12 seconds left, and they're going to kill the clock, and the Stampeders will celebrate a season-opening win. Last year, the offense was flat in the first game on Canada Day, and they were beaten by the Toronto Argonauts with 3-3 in the first 6. It was the final 6, the final third of the regular season Tom Higgins liked the most. They lost to Edmonton on Labor Day at home and then the Western semifinal, but they get the best of their Alberta rivals here in the season opener of 2006. 24-14 the final.
Doesn't matter how you win it, they don't ask how many. They do ask how many. They don't ask how. I'll get it right.
So week 1 is over, and all 4 home teams prevail. And for the second straight night, we see a comeback by the home team late in the game. Dave?
Time now for the TSN Turning Point, brought to you by the 2007 Chevy Avalanche. And here it is. A 3rd and 10 play in which Henry Burris was forced to scramble, buy a little time, step back, and then throw it downfield 33 yards to Nick Lewis for what turned out to be the winning touchdown. A cash donation will be made to the Coaching Association for the training and development of Canadian coaches on behalf of TSN and Chevrolet. Coming up tonight Or later on TSN, Friday Night Football is coming your way again this coming Friday. Toronto at Winnipeg. Ricky Williams, 97 yards, rushing today against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. We've got a pregame show on the air, 7:30 Eastern Time. The next edition of the TSN Sports Center comes your way at 11 p.m. Pacific Time with your hosts, Holly Horton and Brian Mudrick. They will have all the news of the day, including that big win for the Edmonton Oilers to force a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final. Time now to introduce you to the Rogers Player of the Game. Rogers brings you 2006 World Cup video highlights on the latest MP3 phones, and it is Joffrey Reynolds with 39% of the vote, 153 yards rushing for the Stamps as they win 24-14, and that's a wrap on week number 1 on the CFL. On behalf of Chris and Matt and Jock and our entire CFL on TSN crew, this is Dave Randolph saying thanks for watching. You are watching TSN, Canada's sports leader.